Welcome back to Always Almost There, a Goose podcast series by Storm Sound and Osiris Media. I'm Brian, aka Jive Goose.
And I'm Neal.
And I'm Ryan. The three of us are here today to talk about the second half of Goose's September tour from Salt Lake City through Mempho Fest. Unfortunately, Dee and Kev were unable to join us today, but we are excited to dive into the second half of tour. And fear not, people, you will still be getting lots of analysis. The last episode that was just the three of us was almost 3 hours in length.
There's just no telling what's going to happen here. It's all improvised. It's the same thing as a Goose show. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Anyway, we talked a lot about, the context of this tour and big picture stuff in part one, which came out last week. So check out that episode. We talk about Homedale through Iowa. And today we're going to be picking things back up as the band continues to head west. We're going to dive right in here at the Great Zaltair in Magna, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake City. This show was supposed to be at the Plaza at America First Field, but was moved due to bad weather. This venue was in an area with nothing around it for miles, right on the shores of Great Salt Lake. And most notably, was the only show of the tour where they had no curfew. So I think this might be the longest second set of the tour, which isn't really saying much. A lot of them were pretty short. But yeah, interesting context behind this show to look at. But first set here, Draconian Meter Maid, Mr. Action, Time to Flee, Inside Out, Your Ocean, Rock the Casbah, Zalt. There's some solid stuff earlier in the set. This Flea is a little bit unique, just very, very blues rock vibe as opposed to the typical Flea. But this Zalt is where it's at. This is my highlight of the show by far. One of my most listened to jams of the tour at this point. I just love it so much. I really like a jam with a propulsive groove, the way that this Zalt has, and I love that subtle layer of digital sauce that Rick has on here. It's not full sauce. It's like a little dab, if you will. But great little charging dark section, some crazy train, and then Rick just shreds through some hose, and they bring it back. But I love it. That's my thoughts on this first set.
I hate to do this, but I'm glad we're getting out of the way. We're getting it out of the way early. I have to give Ryan some credit because I think I overlooked this version of Zalt initially, and then Ryan was talking about it, and he had strong opinions, and so I thought, okay, well, just in case, let me go give this another listen. And yeah, it's this is a really good Zalt. It's got a really nice jam, and this is the version of Zalt that struck me as, yeah, this song can be 16, 17 minutes long, but that's a lengthy jam. Part of that is just the time, the length of the proper part of the song. That's the obvious part of it. But another part of it is that this is becoming one of those songs where they quickly launch into improv ideas. It seems easy, and that's not the case for every song. There are other songs that are like this. All I Need, I think, is like this, and I think Wisteria is like this. There's more examples, but so anyway, this is a really awesome version of the song and a really good jam. So I initially didn't have it on my playlist, but it's there now, and yeah, I love how they have a little bit of darkness, and then they transition really nicely into kind of a high energy, blissful jam, we'll say. But anyway, the only other thing that I didn't want to overlook from this set is, and I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder, but I love this cover as well, which is Inside Out. Always happy to see this pop up. It's a nice addition to any set one. So yeah, those are my two favorite things about this set.
Heavy Mutron in that Inside Out too. Speaking of Inside Out, Neal.
Oh yeah. If in case you haven't heard, huge Spoon fan. Although, as a huge Spoon fan, I'm obligated to say this might be the least exciting jam inside of an Inside Out in a long time. They
Yeah.
usually jam the hell out of this song, and it just didn't really happen here. But I think, hey, that's a theme of what we've got here is like musical ideas that don't really develop into, long improv. Time to Flee, same deal. Actually, really nice jam inside of this, but short. And then can't really say much more about this Zalt. I agree with you all. My arm was twisted into adding this onto my playlist as well. And it's just this jam has a lot of depth to it. It's weird because Zalt is the kind of song that can be a 6-minute encore, or you can have it be a what is this, about 17 minutes or so
Yeah.
jam at the end of a set. And I like it in both spots. And this one absolutely crushes. A little bit of Crazy Train vibe, which, I don't think the intention was to do Crazy Train here. They just found it, which is neat when that kind of happens, when it's not
Yeah.
like a tease that like you hear a couple notes and you're like, all right, let's throw out the Crazy Train tease. This was like they were already at Crazy Train. And then I think Rick was like, oh shit, this is Crazy Train. And then they did the Crazy Train thing, which is not the first time they've kind of done this. I think of, uh, was it Rockdale at Colorado Goose Miss that had the Crazy Train vibe too? Similar.
Very different though, because that one was like slow and grimy versus where this one is just like very fast and
Yeah.
aggressive.
Well, they arrived at it in a similar way, is what the point I'm
Sure.
trying to make.
Sure.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Goosemas one was gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it
fun.
was gnarly. And like my point is that like Rick wasn't the whole way thinking like, let's go fucking Crazy Train. No, it's just like they found themselves in Crazy Train and then
Yeah.
they just went with it.
Well, I also
But
like it this one where Rick plays Crazy Train and they kind of go away from it for a minute. Then they come back to it and then Peter joins him the second time. That's always
yeah.
fun. And a little
I mean,
Secret Agent Man right at the end for good measure.
Crazy Train is an incredibly cliched song. So like I'm glad it just kind of like found its way there and it's like, I don't know. Instead of just being like, just full on Crazy Train.
Well, there we go. There we go. That's the first set here. Second set at the Great Zaltair. Madhavan, Into the Mist, Can't Get You Out of My Head, Echo of a Rose, Dark Horse, and Thatch. I mean, looking back on it, this is a really good hour of music in terms of flow. In the moment, I was a little disappointed. Again, as we were saying a lot in part one, like that Madhavan, that 13-minute Madhavan is absolutely phenomenal. Like 2 guitar bliss jam, the energy is there. They're really killing it. And I think one of the things that we had talked about in the last episode a lot is they planned out this set that they wanted to play, and rather than keep exploring the jam, they did that one theme and they were like, all right, now we're going to drop into Mist. Now the segue into Mist is awesome. But I still think, again, this Madhavan could have kept going. And especially at a show where they had no curfew, I was hoping that like maybe they'll play an hour and 40-minute second set, just for shits because they can. They didn't, but still 80-minute second set, which is great. But otherwise, I mean, you get the When the Saints Go Marching In jam again, for like the fourth time this year or whatever. But this time Rick actually teases it. The crowd started singing along, which worried me for a little bit that they were going to keep singing it, even though, like Rick was only playing the melody once. But they didn't, and then Kylie. This echo is really, really good. There's a trend of like shorter echoes on this tour that do a lot. This is another one, actually, Neal, that has a tendency to get out there pretty quickly, especially lately. Really nice full band build here. Dark Horse and then Solid Thatch. And then, Butter Rum into the ending of Madhavan was, fun encore. But nothing that I really need to go back to. But if you're the kind of person that likes a really solid hour of music that flows well, check out the first 4 songs here.
I'll agree with that. I think this set flows really well. This one we're not going back to for the jams necessarily, but you get a taste of the good stuff in here. That when the Saints Go Marching In jam, which I completely disagreed with you about. You were like calling it that when they did it in the Raleigh Pancakes. You were calling it that when they did it in the Portland Wisteria. Yeah, and then in this one they finally go and do it, and they, you know, prove that I was wrong. But I still I wonder how that finally came to be in this particular jam. But it's still cool, and I like it. Anytime you get Into the Mist, that's exciting. Uh, these days in 2024, Into the Mist rules. So that's great. And yeah, yet another short echo. There's another really short, really good echo coming also on this leg of tour.
Yeah.
So decent stuff.
Yeah. So just real quick, I agree with Into the Mist rules,
Yes.
and no curfew plus Kylie. That can be dangerous.
It can.
We got
Is that a
12
thing?
minutes. We got 12. Hey, we've gotten long. They've taken Kylie to the 18-minute mark, I think. So, you know, they put they took this one out there, It could have kept going. This mist has a section of the jam towards the end, and I feel like I've been hearing this in other places lately too, but it reminds me of the Thompson's Point Wisteria.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we were just,
Calm, patient.
and I know, well, just like almost I'm talking about a particular melody.
Yeah,
Um,
the When the Saints Go Marching In.
no, it's not that. And I hear it also. We were talking about it earlier today. I think it's the drip field from the Greek.
L.A.
From the
Yeah.
Greek. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
That's what you were saying.
yeah, yep. I hear it there as well. Anyway, it's a nice jam, and yeah, not much else to add from what you guys were saying here. This is this is a nice little show.
And I mean, as far as the tour goes, this is actually like one of the better shows in terms of a full show. You got a really strong jam in the first set. You got some good flow early in the second set with, I mean, the echo is really, really solid. Albeit not what you look for in a second set anchoring jam most of the time, but still really, really good. And I mean, hard to find really a problem with the set list here other than like Kylie, I think is my only real gripe.
Oh, did you see the Rum Encore?
Yeah, but it went into
No,
Madhava, so it was okay.
no, but seriously, yeah. The only thing though is that I think would hold this one back a little bit for me is, yeah, we do get that nice Zalt jam, but looking at the set list with Madavan, Mist, Echo Thatch all in set two, you would expect at least one, big jam out of those, if not two or three. So, but yeah, like I said, nice little show.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say before we move on, this show, incidentally, with no curfew, it enabled them to play in however long they wanted, and they got the show in. Showtime was 6:30, and they were done just before 10:30. Second set was 80 minutes. They took a 30-minute set break still. Plenty of time. And this demonstrates what I've been saying is what they've been doing with ticket time being 3.5 hours before curfew is limiting their ability to play, the show that they want to play, at least, because we see at almost every show on this tour, like second set kind of has to get cut a little bit, or it's a short encore because they have to get it in before curfew. They give themselves the 4 hours. So if they have an 11 p.m. curfew, make ticket time 7 instead of 7:30. If you have a midnight curfew, make ticket time 8. I guess that doesn't usually happen, but like, you know what I mean? Give yourselves the extra half hour because it makes such a difference, because having 4 hours from ticket time to curfew is way more significant than a 30-minute difference would suggest. B?
Well, I would also add, as part of the, the 40, well, I'll call it the 40 plus demographic. Uh, hey, we don't mind an early start, you know?
Well, we get these 6:30 show times, right? Make it 6. Give
Yeah.
us a full show.
Yeah, I don't mind that,
Imagine the Forest Hills Drip if they had half an hour left instead of 10 minutes,
We could imagine so many things.
We could. There's a lot to imagine. But instead of
Don't get me started
imagining,
on that. Yeah.
we're going to head to our next show at Kettle House in Bonner, Montana.
I'm so happy
take us
that
away, B.
I'm so happy that you're sticking to calling it Bonner this year.
Yeah, I figured we all got to grow up sometime.
Okay, so let's start in right here with an Atlas Dogs to open the show. We'll talk more about that. One in, one out, California Magic, Flow Down, Elizabeth, Interlude 2, Jive 1, Jive Lee. This reminds me of, I'm having deja vu when we were talking about all the openers. And this has a good 5. I guess we'll say 5 for sure. No, nice. This is a really nice Atlas Dogs. I know you guys both probably want to talk about this one as well. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than this is
Neither.
this is a nice little jam though to open the show. It's not just a cut and dry version, but it's also not a well we got to make it 20 minutes Atlas Dogs. It's a nice little opening jam, and I like these. I this is a nice style of opener in my opinion. Just coming out. I always thought Flea was a really good opener because it's just a really loose jam. It's just a really loose jam that doesn't have to be more than it has to be, but everybody gets warmed up. The crowd likes it. It's danceable. So anyway, I thought this was a nice opening groove to kind of kick things off. And then we got this is probably the longer of the one in, one outs.
Yep.
Doesn't do a ton, it kind of stays in its lane for sure. Again, like we talked about before, it's just a matter of time. We're gonna get the big one. We're gonna get the big jams coming out of this. I think this song eventually we're gonna start seeing in other placements.
Yeah.
And I guess what I mean by that is I think we're going to start singing in set 2. I don't think it's going to be an exclusive set 2 song by any means, but yeah, I think this is a song that they're going to quickly figure out that it fits anywhere. And if they want to take it out there, then it can be your set 2 opener. It can be at any of your big kind of jam vehicle spots. So nice to see them take it out a little bit more than they had been. So that's great. California Magic, Flow Down. Yeah, the rest of this set is set 1, songy. So yeah, what do you guys think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, as far as it's a solid first set, as you said. I like Atlas Dogs being in this opener slot with the jam, as you said, similar to a shorter Flea. I think we still kind of have that mindset from the last couple of years of just like all these 5-minute Atlas Dogs openers that we're not appreciating like a good 13-minute one to open the show. Not anything crazy, but good way to ease in. So I like that angle on it a lot. One in, one out. I mean, this starts the trend of this show. There's a lot of these like kind of like vicious clav funk jams. And I mean, I'm a big fan of vicious clav funk jams, as you guys know. But this one is easily the best one in, one out so far. But not for the last time in this show, jam kind of gets cut off. This was the trend in Montana. Some might call it land of the ripcord after these two shows, which is really interesting. Well, I am a little bit. It's really interesting also to look at, previous Goose shows in Montana. And, we went into these two shows at the Kettle House with a certain expectation of like, these shows are going to be incredible. Like if you look at, last year at the Kettle House, the shows in Bozeman, 2722, the Pine Creek shows, they're consistently throwing down amazing jams in the state of Montana. And so I'm curious, in the midst of a tour where they're delivering lots of, great jamming in a lot of places and a lot of really good shows, that these two in Montana end up being two of the lower quality ones, at least by our standards here. But otherwise, in this first set, love Interlude 2 being a regular part of the rotation. It coming out of Elizabeth was nice. Otherwise, nothing else to say here.
Ryan, just like set 1, show 1 of Montana, just like rest of Montana, not good. So way to start us off strong there, Ryan.
No problem.
I like the way the show starts off. You get a jammed out Atlas Dogs, which is exciting. And then you get the longest yet one in one out, as B said. And so that's like really, really good stuff. And
100%.
then yet who knows what happened to the rest of the set. I mean, it's just the wheels kind of fall off the wagon there. You would expect something coming out of like the back end of the set, which I guess maybe was the intention of doing the interlude 2, Jive 1, Jive Lee, and just nothing really materializes there. So that's how the set just kind of rounds out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B said too.
Yeah. Ryan told me he's never going back to Montana.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
mean,
true. I would
hey,
definitely
listen,
go back.
actually, on the topic of like Montana shows and Ryan talking about like all the things that happen in Montana, I just want to be really clear. Montana shows historically amazing
That's what I was saying.
until Ryan started going to Montana shows.
That's not true.
Steady decline in quality of shows. The greatest Montana shows, you know,
2722 actually, and you guys
yeah,
can't change that.
yeah, no, I'm saying plural shows were the first 3, and of course that was bolstered by attendance of myself and Jive Goose.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Ryan had heard of Goose yet.
Yeah, no.
Okay, set 2.
Well,
Let's see what happens in set 2. Opening up with Pancakes, Wisteria Lane, a first time played by Goose cover of Radiohead, True Love Waits,
yeah.
Rosewood Heart, SOS, Encore Rockdale. I mean, on paper, on
paper, this is
screen,
insane.
This looks
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So here's my memory, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to this show probably more than 2 times. I think the Pancakes is, I think everything, aside from True Love Waits, of course, which is kind of serves the purpose of the cool down. Everything's kind of a straight ahead rocker, like high energy, straightforward jamming. And that's not bad. We don't want to. Now, back to your point, Neal. Yeah, wheels fell off a little bit. Set 1, I would agree with that. From not just a lack of improv perspective, but flow, setlist construction. I think all across the board. So for set 2, I think obviously setlist construction, I would say it flows really well too. This is really, really nice. And yeah, we don't really get the big improv. Like I said, I think everything pretty much stays pretty straightforward. But in person, I'm surprised this would be such a downer, as much of a downer as it is for Ryan, because it feels like this is the type of show that actually you walk out of pretty happy because you got to see a lot of really good songs. And then maybe your one negative is, we didn't get the big jam, but I'll take it tonight.
And so, I mean, when you're most people who are going to Goose shows to just have a good time and enjoy the music, most people walked out of the show saying it kicked ass. It was awesome. And I mean, I totally understand that point of view. Now, as we all know, I'm not a vibes guy. And, as somebody who is not a vibes guy, who is looking for these big jams,
I mean, is a bad vibes guy still a vibes guy though?
Well, I didn't say I was a bad vibes guy. Just for the record, to all those vibes guys out there who get upset at me when I'm critical of shows, the best vibes are when the show energy is good and there are huge jams. You cannot find me a single show where it's a quote-unquote vibes show that's better than a show that has vibes and huge jams.
Well, give us real examples here, Ryan. I mean, come on. Let's. I mean, what do you got?
Red Rocks Night 2, SPAC 2023.
Fiddlers.
SPAC Night 2 this year. Fiddlers Night 2.
Versus
this show.
Okay.
That's as compelling an argument as I can make. But yeah, this set, I mean, yeah, again, on paper looks ridiculous. To me, it's like Pancakes. This Pancakes has been due for a number of shows. I don't think they'd played it since SPAC at this point. So it was like, where is the Pancakes? It had been kind of coming up the last few shows. So I was expecting, like, sometimes when they'll put a big jammer like this or a regularly played song on the shelf for 8 to 10 shows, they'll bring it back and it'll be 25 minutes. It'll be huge. It'll be like, yeah, Pancakes is back. This one's just solid, high energy, doesn't go too far. Wisteria is where I will disagree with you, B, on things being straightforward. This Wisteria is 14 minutes. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal jam. And I think this might be my biggest criticism of these Montana shows is the decision to go into True Love Waits in this Wisteria jam, because this is getting dark. This is 2-guitar Goose. It was phenomenal. And I listened to it and the segue into True Love Waits, as much as I love this song and, I loved it when Arabelo did it, I think Goose sounds great doing this song. And I think it would have been a great cool down in the set had Wisteria gotten to jam to, its fullest potential here. So yeah, I mean, that's my biggest complaint here. And then we get more clav funk in the Rosewood. A lot of fun. Neal?
Agree that Wisteria Lane has some interesting stuff going on there. I really like the spaces that they find, which I always do when they play the song. It always sounds great. And it seemed like they were really trying to lean into the jams there, and also agree that it was a hard right turn into that True Love Waits. It's pretty awkward spot for it. Gets a full arrow on the set list. I don't know if that's necessarily the way it should be, but I mean, it is what it is. You know what's interesting actually about this set is that they do a couple things in this set that they always do in Montana. We always talk about when we try to predict the songs that they're going to play, and we think really hard. They did a bunch of songs here that they seem to always do when they're out there in Montana, which is Elizabeth always seems to pop up in Montana. A Radiohead song always seems to pop up in Montana. Rosewood Heart. I feel like they play Rosewood Heart every time they walk into Montana.
They played it at Pine Creek?
No, I don't think they did, but they played it
they played it the last 2 times they've been to Montana.
At the
Bozeman,
yeah. So
that one's really good, by the way.
I mean, it's just
41823, check it out.
Yeah, so it's just weird that there are weird repeats in here, especially a song like Rosewood Heart, which is grossly underplayed, especially this year. Had a 2019 show gap or something like
20.
that this year. Yeah, 19. So
no, you had it right the first
crazy.
time.
Yeah, no, in 19. So crazy that this comes out again and a weird repeat to throw in there. And maybe they're just kind of inspired by the beauty of Montana. They got to play something like Rosewood Heart there. I feel like it conjures images of natural beauty. Maybe. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But all in all, an interesting set. Like Jive said, you look at this on paper and you're like, holy shit. And then, just it kind of works out to being not that amazing, but good stuff.
Yeah. I had forgotten this Wisteria. It goes really hard, actually. It's heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going really heavy.
By the 8 or 9 minute mark, you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on? I remember it started and it got to that point in the jam and I was like, oh, we're going big. This Wisteria is going to be huge, right?
Yeah. And then they take it down. And so then you're thinking, okay, we're downshifting. And now we're going to go into some really, fun places. And they quickly go into True Love. So here's the thing about True Love Waits for me. I'm just going to say this, and I don't want anyone to be offended. I'm a huge Radiohead fan.
Same.
And I love the song. I wonder, and Goose kills Radiohead songs, and I mean that in the best way, obviously. This is one that I wonder if. And maybe they'll play it a few more times and it'll grow on me. But this is one that I wonder. It's kind of like if you think about Jerry ballads. I feel like there are some Jerry ballads that are almost untouchable as covers because it's oh, you can't go there, It's so poignant, so emotional, so meaningful.
Rick can go there though.
Well, I don't know, and so that's what struck me about this one. It just made me ask the question to myself, man, does it work, right? Or is it one of those songs? And again, maybe this is just for me. Is it one of those songs that feels like there's only one guy that really should be singing it, right? Anyway, that was my thought there. So we'll see what happens. I didn't have that feeling, by the way, when Arabelo played it. and I'm not sure why that is. So it could have been. I don't know if this was more. It was like more up tempo than Radiohead plays it, and that might have been part of it, or perhaps the drums were just more up front. I don't know. There was something about it though that just kind of gave me that thought. So I just wanted to see. I know you guys both said you loved it, but
I mean, I love Rick doing Radiohead. I agree with your point, though. Tom York is one of those guys where there are some songs that only Tom York can do, right? And this might be one of those songs, but I also think you pointed out something that's really interesting, which is when Arabelo does it, it just kind of hits different. And that is just the magic of Arabelo. You just get raw Rick's voice versus like a full band. And I think that's how that works. It's just hard to sound like Radiohead. I mean, those guys are so fucking good, you know? Um, so, I mean, hard to say here, like why it doesn't really materialize the same way it does with Arabelo, but it's the way it is. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of songs that do that. I think a Rye sounds better as Arabelo than it does as Goose. I think.
100%.
Um, although, I mean, the Rise that's coming is
Well,
fucking
we'll
sick.
talk about it.
And then, yeah, the No California actually, actually, I'm on the edge
No,
there.
I
It sounds
like
pretty good as
Goose
both
more.
bands. But like, what's one more that really sticks out in my mind? God damn it. Um, yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head. We're gonna have to
But
skip that.
anyway,
Crap. Yeah. And anyway, yes. So I agree with your point, Jive, that some songs I mean, Goose just chooses these incredibly challenging covers, right? That's the amazing part. Like you choose to cover Radiohead, you were trying to sing like Tom York. That is impossible. Almost no one can. And the fact that Rick can pull it off is great. So, they're eventually going to kind of run into a song that is just hard to pull off as a full band. So this
there we
might be
go.
it.
Well, take us into night 2, Neal.
Oh yeah, night 2. That's me. All right, man. So we have once again in Missoula, Montana. Some people call it Bonner. Some people have
It's
other
it's
names
in
for it.
Bonner.
Yeah, it's
Missoula
something
is
like
10 minutes away.
yeah. 10 minutes in Montana is, I mean, a lifetime. Really,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. This show
really
is
far
not in
away.
Missoula.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
we have my mind has been, geez, my mind has been consumed by media. Then we get a bust out cover. One More Day.
huge.
Huge bust out, gigantic. Then Doctor Darkness. We get an Indian River with just an incredibly fascinating ending. I think at this point, when we were thinking about the show before this, and we're thinking about this show, we're like, where are the jams? And then all of a sudden, they do something right at the end of this that's incredibly creative. We're going to talk about that a bunch, Ryan. I know you have a bunch of thoughts. I had a bunch of thoughts in the moment where I was
Yep.
like this is it. This is the show. This is where it's all
Yep.
going to go down. Then you get Big Modern, of course, Montana. Cattle ranch and country. You gotta have it. You gotta have it here. You can't not play it.
Do they have
So you
terracotta
have that.
rooftops in Montana?
I mean, they got all kinds of things in Montana now. They're building
True.
shit left and right. So then you get Seekers 1 and 2, and then a hot tea to close out the set. That's seems to be like a regular thing now. We get the hot tea set 1 closer. Wild. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I really want to talk about in this set is this Indian River, which the last 2 minutes of this are crazy. They're exciting, they're awesome, and then it never really turns into anything. So this doesn't end up being like a notable version of Indian River or anything like that. It just happens to be a moment in a show that sticks out in your memory. And then Big Modern, like you said, Ryan, gets better and better and better every time they play it. So there that is, and yeah, One More Day, I guess it's like pretty cool.
I mean, I loved One More Day a lot, actually. I had heard the song like once or twice before, listening to the Mousetrap show, which last time One More Day was played, for anyone who doesn't know, December 14th, 2019 at the Mousetrap in Indianapolis, 307 shows. That's a pretty sizable bust out, one of the biggest ones that they can pull at this point. I've listened to this song a lot since the show. I love this cover. I really hope it comes into more regular rotation because, I mean, we know Rick crushes the Wood Brothers, but yeah, I love this song a lot. Your point about Indian River, yes, this, Indian River happens, and I'm like, all right, after Dr. Darkness, like it's just first SETI, whatever. And they do the delta, they get to the peak, and they go into, the dissonant section. And I'm like, all right, this feels like the one where it's going to be like the rip back into the delta peak. And so I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And it's one of those jams where they don't go back to it. And they're in this dissonant space. It's dark. And then Rick and Peter start like chasing each other up and down the scales, like in this amazing and dissonant way that like, this is one of those jams where I was cackling. And it's like amazing to listen back to this, but then I get disappointed every time at the ripcord into Big Modern, because like just these last few minutes, as you said, Neal, this is like some of my favorite improv of the entire tour. I think, it's different than you said earlier, Jive. We were talking in chat and you were like, well, it's, I don't love every time they just make spooky noises. And I mean, I know I'm a sucker for that kind of jam, and they do that in the Big Modern, which I love. But for me, this is more than that. This is like actual, like they're not just like laying sound down that's kind of dissonant. They are like actually doing like weird atonal dissonant stuff on like a more analog instrument, just piano and guitar. There's no synth involved here. And I think it's amazing. Anyway, Jive, yeah, I'll let you jump in here.
No, yeah, I don't want to talk. We've already talked longer about this jam than it actually lasts. So it's, yeah, yes, it's cool. But yeah, I mean, it's a couple minutes and it's cool, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as anything incredibly notable, I guess. And it certainly doesn't make me think, oh, I'm going to start thinking as broadly as this entire tour and and have this as, some high piece of improv. So I think they do a lot. I think that there's a lot of examples of, for me, impressive improv and group play and things. I think this does have just that kind of spooky factor, and it's playful and fun in that way. Um, I guess for me, it comes and goes, and I didn't have too much to, haven't really gone back and listened to it. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. And then, yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to say, not to be contrarian, but because normally I'm an agreeer.
Yeah, true. True.
And I've heard this sentiment before about, Big Modern keeps getting better and better. So now I can interpret this in a couple different ways. One might mean, man, I like this song more and more every time they play it. It keeps getting better and better. One
True.
could also be implying that each version is better than the last. It keeps getting better and better, version over version. And that's where I'm like, okay, guys, let's not forget about the first version, because maybe you don't have it super high on your list. That is an incredible jam. So
It's a long jam.
It's a long jam.
I don't know about incredible.
It's a very good jam. It's a very good jam.
We talked about that in the last
episode. A lot of people are going to have that jam high on their playlist. Trust me. But we will also get to another Big Modern. In this episode.
That's
in
better.
Part 2 of this. We're in Part 2. It might be in Part 3. We're going to talk about a really good Big Modern sometime soon, in the near future.
Yes. Which agrees with kind of the sentiment that they improve as they go. So, yeah. I mean, hold and let's see. But yeah, I don't want to take us back to the 36-minute version, which was good. It was good. I'm not saying it was bad. But all right, so set 2, here we go. We have Yeti. Set 2 banger. Whether you like it or not, the band has decided that is what that is. Some of us agree, some of us don't agree. I mean,
I agree.
There are a couple songs right now that are unexpected bangers. We've got another one coming. Jive hates it, but it's a real thing. So, okay, so we're starting off with the Yeti. We get a milestone 2, Skuck's Life, out in Montana, which is the perfect place for it, really. I think if you're going to do it in a place that is just absolutely beautiful, right? And I think this venue is just beautiful. Ryan,
It
you can
is.
speak to that. You were there.
Confirmed.
Then you get Tumble, segue into Mad World, back into Tumble. Very interesting choice here. Then you get, again, like going back to this thing, you get like a This Old Sea, which they have done. They've done an epic version of This Old Sea in this state already. And here it is again, encore of a So Ready. Not writing home about this set. I mean, there really isn't much to say. I mean, I guess Mad World is kind of a bust out here, Ryan. What do you got for shows on that?
259 shows. Last played. So
Oh, yeah.
second time played. The
Yeah.
last time it was played was November 7th, 2020. And so interesting, 2 years they've played at the Kettle House, and both times have had a Donnie Darko song bust out that hadn't been played since. Killing Moon was brought back at Kettle House last year. So interesting to look at that. I forget who pointed that out to me during after this show, but shout out to whoever it was, and I'm sorry I don't remember who pointed that out.
It can't be a coincidence.
So whoever's
can't be
looking back at setlist. No, I think like you might be joking, but if you look back at these set lists and then you look back at what they've done in Montana, I think they looked at the set list and they said, well, screw it. Like, we can play whatever the hell we want, and we might actually want to do some of these things over again. That one just seems to fit that thread. And yeah, maybe that was a choice. I don't know. Hard to say. But, the Mad World was coming eventually. It has never left their minds. It shows up in their music all the time. It's been teased again and again and again over the years.
Yeah.
Since they played it last. So, I mean, not that weird that it eventually showed up again.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add on this set. I think it was when Skuck's Life started after the Yeti, I was kind of like, it's going to be one of those sets again. Like it's going to be a vibe set. We're not getting the big jam here. I had a little bit of hope with the Tumble, but again, we talked about with the Walkie, Empress, and I mean, just sandwiching a cover within a song. Like, it's a really cool idea, but I think this set would have been much better served if you cut either Skuck's Life or Mad World and make it Yeti, huge Tumble, Skuck's Life, This Old Sea, and then even do a Mad World encore. We know Goose can do a slow tune for an encore and it works. I think that ends up being better, but that's my nitpicky opinion. Second Tumble ends up just being pancakes for a little while, which is fun. And This Old Sea, new arrangement, love it. B?
I'm kind of surprised they didn't go back into Yeti. Speaking of,
I'm a big fan. Big fan of that.
Re-entries into Yeti are trending up.
Well,
people are
yeah,
saying,
and sandwich questioning seems to be at an all-time high also. But I don't necessarily disagree with some of those questions, to be fair. So I do agree with Neal when he said not much to write home about. That's an agree. And then This Old Sea set closer, and then the So Ready into Satellite to encore it.
Segue.
Love
Full arrow.
So Ready.
Big segues.
All right, and then we kick off the Pacific Northwest section of the tour next September 21st, Remlinger Farms, Carnation, Washington, just outside of Seattle. This is a big show in terms of, precedent for jams. We come out, nice Hot Love opener. It had been a little while since we got one. Had been all the way since the Salt Shed. 6 whole shows without a Hot Love opener. So we were very due. And here it is. The Whales ate up all the cake. Earthling or Alien. Born, Turn Clouds, Everything Must Go. For me, I mean, Earthling and Born are the meat of the set here. We know Whales is a certified banger at this point. Ate up all the cake is great. Earthling or Alien, this jam, this for me was like the first time since the Zalt in Utah, really, and the Echo in Utah, that they had, to my opinion, like fully explored a theme on a jam without feeling like they were cutting it off a little bit abruptly. And so there was a lot of catharsis there, I felt, in that jam. And I feel like the theme that they ended up in, the Earthling or Alien, that kind of hosey theme that they ended up in, kind of communicated that. And I wonder if there was something with the band, at the Montana shows, that was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that may have contributed to that. So it's interesting to look at, them coming out here and Earthling kind of just opening up into this beautiful jam and kind of being like, don't worry, guys, jams are back. And then we get Born here. And, we've talked about the 2001 jam being a little bit like predictable and pedestrian, like, is this the best way to use Born? And this felt like, Cotter started off a little slower. And I think they consciously took it in a different direction in this jam. Peter being on clav instead of vibe also very much changes the tone of how this Born jam sounds. And I love like the kind of slightly heavier direction that this goes in. Also the last few minutes, just like a really cool kind of crunchy, darker theme. Nothing crazy, but just like there's more improv in this set to write home about than there were in the previous two shows, which gave me a big lift at the time. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree that this Earthling or Alien was some kind of like oasis in a desert of no jams.
I was also
It's
at the show, so it
yeah. So this is a little bit of just like kind of your attendance experience versus like what we heard at home.
Yeah.
But it sounded like a pretty straightforward Earthling or Alien to me. The Born though, good stuff, interesting. There was a very intentional shift into what felt like more notes version of the Eugene Born. So it kind of had that like weird sounds kind of vibe, but with more Rick soloing on it.
Interesting.
And that is the result is this jam. And I think it's good, not great, this Born. Good stuff all around. And then Everything Must Go to end the set. I gotta say, like I really liked it when they were leaning into Everything Must Go and like these kind of like halfway versions, which like aren't really committed to a jam, and they're like kind of like type one, but they're 15 minutes. Those are weird to me, and they're starting to wear on me. Like, I mean, do it, go full on like they did before, because the song absolutely crushed when they were doing that, or just kind of leave it and have it be like a 7, 8, 9 minute song.
Yeah.
But this thing in the middle feels awkward to me, especially as a set closer.
Yeah, I have a lot of agrees. I'm just going to say I agree with Neal on everything he just said.
Yes.
This,
Yes.
So yeah, this is a really interesting set when you look at it, and it's riddled with songs that I really like, and then it has just enough that I'm a little bit meh on sometimes, and so the flow, I guess, just feels a little bit off for me. And yeah, I like the Born, but I like I said, I agree, good not great kind of version. And yeah, the Everything Must Go. So basically, what you just said, Neal, is what I was trying to say about the Atlas Dogs. How I really liked that recent opener, but we tended to, well, and maybe this actually doesn't quite fit that same thought, but with the Atlas Dogs, it was always, it felt like it had to either be really short or really long. And we got that mid version then that felt almost fresh in a way, you know? Whereas this is almost the opposite with Everything Must Go, where we get the long version that's amazing. We get the crushing improv, or we get these versions like you're saying, where it just feels a little bit like not quite leaning all the way into it, but feeling like you're halfway there and then done. So yeah, is it better, I guess, is the question, like to just rip it. Just rip a 10 or 12. Yeah, just rip it. Just say, hey, we don't have time to go big on this, so we're just going to rip it. And I don't know, then you start to get into all these gray areas of, well, you could have taken 3 minutes off this Everything Must Go, and then maybe you could have added that somewhere else, or you could have not played the whales, or sorry, Peter. I mean, you could have. That's just the one that jumped out at me. But you could pick any song. You know what I mean?
Honestly, if I'm eliminating a song from the set, I'm getting rid of Tony Clark.
Hey, that one too. No, and I don't disagree with that, by the way. But you know what I mean? You get into that place of, do you want the big set closer or not? And if you do, then you have to leave yourself time for it. So,
Sure.
So one last thing before we move on from the set, because this is a topic of conversation. I don't know who brought it up, but somebody said, "Hot take: Ate Up All the Cake is a terrible cover."
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Someone said that.
Like,
well, they're a terrible person.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so I don't have to say anything at all. Jive Goose said it.
We agree.
Yeah, we all agree. So
Isn't
we
it
all-
funny
we all
the covers
disagree.
that
It's a
some
hell-
people like and others don't?
I mean, that one like just escapes me. It's such a well-written song. It's executed so well when they do it. If there's any complaint you have against Ate Up All the Cake, is that it doesn't sound as good as when Bon Iver does it. And so if that's your complaint, fine. I agree with you. But it's a hell of a song, and there was like one dude like from some indie rock band. I think it was like Jaguar or something like that. Was like they just Bruce Hornsby the shit out of that Ate Up All the Cake, which is kind of true. So if that's your complaint, like there's too much piano in the Ate Up All the Cake, fine. But if you hate the song, not going to agree.
I don't trust
with
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to set 2 here. We've got Drive, Electric Avenue, Redbird, Hunger Site, Dripfield. This is a hell of a second set. I mean, this is one of my favorite sets of the tour, I think, in terms of just full set being awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome. You lead off with the Drive, very similar jam to SPAC in my mind. Brief little bit of 2-guitar funk, then you kind of drift off into this floaty synth-drenched major key space. Really nice. Electric Avenue comes out next. First one of the tour. Nice little mellow jam, kind of like similar vein to Amsterdam last year, but not as deep, if you will. Redbird here kind of breaks the barrier into more aggressive jamming, which is really nice. I want to give Cotter all the credit for this jam taking off. Redbird is one of those jams. We talked about Zalt and All I Need and some songs that like get into, out there improvisational territory relatively quickly. This one typically takes a long time because they like to build a nice little type 1 peak before they really get into the exploration. And this version, I remember and I've gone back to it, but like they kind of got stuck in the type 1 vein for a little while, like Rick. And they brought it down and started the exploration, but they kind of wound up back at home. And Cotter kind of, I think, felt that. And so he kicked into double time at one point. And so that kind of just opened up the floodgates here. And they got into this repeating, kind of darker motif, Peter adding in those like little like synth swells as they developed it. So I love this jam a lot. This was awesome. And then Hunger Site to close the set. We had 4 consecutive Hunger Sites all on this tour that all closed a second set. 3 that closed the second set, sorry, and then Mempho that closed the set. But I love Hunger Site in the set closing slot, and this one is short. This one is oh so sweet. One of Rick's best earworm bliss melodies of the entire tour. Even this is absolutely phenomenal. And then quick drip in before curfew. B?
Yeah, so this set is really interesting to me as well. And, we just talked about, I think it was Bonner Night 1 that had the really nice set 2 on paper, but no notable jams where we'd normally expect them. And I think with this set, there's some similarities and some differences. So I'll start with the differences. So we do actually get more jamming in this set, but I would say so this drive, and we've had a lot of really good drives. There's been some incredible drives. This one's on the next tier down, than if we talk about SPAC and some of those. I mean, this one just
Sure.
just isn't quite up there. but I'm you know, drive is up there just under Wisteria for me, probably in terms of I kind of love every drive jam. So yeah, obviously I'm happy with that. Electric Avenue, yeah, I mean, not my favorite cover, and interesting spot here, I guess. The Redbird, so yeah, again with this Redbird, I just feel like it's it's not quite up to par with a lot of the other Redbirds, at least a few of the other Redbirds from this year that I have really high, and that's okay. That like that on its own, I mean, that's okay. Not every version is going to be the best version, so great. And then the Hunger Site. So yeah, I wouldn't use. You said phenomenal, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I get your sentiment that it had a nice melody and things like this and strong version, but I mean, phenomenal to me is like top tier kind of stuff. Where I do agree with you is your comment about Hunger Site in the set two closing spot. I do think that's a really nice spot for it. And I think and again, I think it's the type of song where at this point in the show, when you hear that lick to open up Hunger Site, you're like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at in the show, it's closing things down, and it's Hunger Site. And so yeah, I agree. I think this is a really, really good spot. At set two openers, really good for it for similar reasons. You know what I mean? And then but it's rather abbreviated here, and then abbreviated drip field. So it has the similarity, I guess, is that yeah, on paper, I think this is stronger looking than it actually ends up being. I'm not as high on the jams overall, maybe, as you were, Neal.
The funny thing about Hunger Site, we've talked about this a bunch, where I think at one point we said recently too, when Hunger Site shows up on the set list, you are like, okay, so this is going to be 15 to 20 minutes, and it might not be great. It might be a good time to take a walk, get a beer, get something to eat, or whatever, go to the bathroom. I think that's no longer the case. And I think this, so I'm going to work my way backwards from this. But like this 15-ish minute, 16-ish minute Hunger Site is very, very, very good. The space that they find very quickly in here is just fun, for lack of a better word. And so I agree with what Ryan's saying. Like, there's something that this does here in its spot. And I do love this as a set two closer. I hope it actually just stays in the spot, because every time it appears in a set two, it's just, I don't know, it's just so much fun. Anywhere it shows up is good. I remember like SPAC was just awesome. Like made me so damn happy. So agreeing kind of what you were saying, Jive. But yeah, I mean, this Electric Avenue, don't sleep on it. There's a good solid 6 minutes of jam in here, and it's not half bad. It's yeah. I mean, you can hate the song, but you can't deny
She
the
does.
jams. And yes, historically, Jive Goose hates this cover. It's the
Does
worst
not
cover,
like it.
worst cover in his eyes.
Outside maybe
Oh, it's not the
Kylie.
worst. Yeah, it's not the worst.
Kylie or
Yeah.
Electric Avenue, Drive.
No, he's brought the data against it like on several occasions against like Electric Avenue. I don't know if it's deserving of that much hate, but the drive, again, working my way backwards, this drive is very, very, very good. It's just not long. We have to acknowledge when they have like really great musical ideas and they don't just flush them out. That's exactly what this drive is. So if you go back and you listen to this from beginning to end, and I said this at the time and I stand by it, this is a put on set two and listen to it all the way through kind of thing. There's no skip in here, even the Electric Avenue. There's no skip.
100%.
So, decent
Agreed.
set two. I mean, it's no one from the vault. Listen to it all the way through. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's close.
Well,
I mean, we're not talking about the Grateful
well,
Dead here.
Yeah.
Speaking of skipping songs, let's move on to Troutdale, set one.
There we go.
Going down to the Troutdale. Yeah.
Okay. This was at McMenamin's Edgefield Amphitheater, Troutdale, Oregon. So set one, Jive 2 opener, Silver Rising, Lookout Cleveland, Feel It Now, Lead Up, Animal. I love a Jive 2 opener. I mean, it's
Yeah, man.
It's a big one
you
too.
know,
Yeah.
and it's just like what we were talking about earlier. It's a really nice opener because it's a great song. It has a nice loose jam, and it gets the crowd moving, gets the band warmed up. You know, it feels like it checks all those boxes. It's why Hot Love has been opening so much, and Turbulence. You know, these are the songs that they're built for the spot. And frankly, I don't think we see Jive 2 enough in this spot. You know, it doesn't have the fiery
We
Yep.
don't see Jive
it
2
doesn't
enough.
have the fiery intro that just immediately, you know, it's a maybe a little bit of a slow burn, you know, coming out. But I think it's also one of those songs that the more old school you are, you know, the greater appreciation there is. It's like, you know, that's the line just goes up diagonally on the chart, you know, if you look at those two things. So anyway, great opener. And it's Silver Rising coming in the 2 spot. Look Out Cleveland, Feel It Now, Lead Up Animal. So again, there's some stuff in here I really like. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on just kind of the flow through this set because it feels a little bit Jive 2, maybe Lookout Cleveland comes there and then Silver Rising comes next. I don't know. I love Feel It Now. I think Feel It Now Lead Up. That's great. Then the Animal Closer. Yeah, I don't know. It's missing something maybe for me, but overall, not a bad little first set by any means.
I think what we're getting into now, and we talked about it in the last show, is Goose has been very intentional about sets in certain spots. So you find yourself loading up for sets, and that's what's happening here. We are about to go to California. There are very intentional set lists that are coming in California. So you have to kind of pack some of these songs in. When a Jive 2 comes out, typically that means they're in like a weird in between space. Like you think about the places that they played Jive 2 over like the last year or so. And it comes up in like awkward spots, like in big bust out shows typically, or things like that. So that's what this feels like. It's like they're playing these songs so they can be played X amount of shows later on in this tour. And that's the vibe I get when I look at this set list, while also still being like somewhat like decently put together. And like I do like this Lookout Cleveland. Jive, what do you
No,
got?
no, I was just going to say real quick. What's interesting about that with Jive 2 is like you would think Jive 2 is the song that they're holding for that next big run of shows.
Yes.
It's ironic to
Right.
me that
Right.
that's how it would be treated, right?
Right. Well, like you think of Kemba Live, for example, like that one got thrown in there with like the big bust out show, right? So
That,
Ryan.
that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, I like this first set. You know, I agree with you, Jive. Really interesting song choices throughout. But I mean, the Lookout Cleveland with that kind of brief little Westville Rockdale ish section in it. Um, Loved that jam. You know, especially in a tour so permeated with major key and bliss jams. You know, anytime you get this like foray into the darkness, you know, a little bit of evil Goose. It's a treat. Feel It Now works in any slot at this point, and I'm just excited whenever they kick into it, wherever it is. You know, it's only a matter of time before we get a Feel It Now encore, which will absolutely crush. So absolutely love this song, and yeah, I mean, you know, Animal continues to do what Animal likes to do, which is play for too long.
Okay, should we move on to set 2? Big Creatures to open the set. Tomorrow Never Knows. Arrow. A Western Sun. The Empress of Organos. And then an Arcadia encore. So yeah, that looks good too. You know, that, that looks really nice. And actually, you know, as far as
It
creatures
is.
go, you know, this is a good one. This is
Hell yeah.
really nice
Yep.
jam here, and I like the I like the treatment that Tomorrow Never Knows has been given. You know, it's they're really they like to segue into it, you know, which is nice, which generally means that it's kind of coming out of a jammer. And I think it fits that spot really well. I don't know. I like it. I like this cover a lot, and I think this is another example of just a really nice fit for it. Um, so yeah, I like a maybe I like a Creatures Beatles more than a Creatures Kylie. I guess maybe I'm more of a Creatures Beatles guy.
I
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll
I
agree
sure
with
hope
you
so.
there. Yeah.
Uh, and then a pretty big, pretty big arrow, as they like to be, and then a Western Sun as kind of just your non-jammer, you know, third quarter cool down.
Shame,
Yeah.
shame.
And then
Yeah.
Empress to close it and Arcadia Encore. We've been getting a lot of Arcadia Encores, which, yeah, I think that's good. I think Arcadia is a song that we'll see the big version only once in a while, you know, and we get a lot of those mid-length versions, kind of like when you were talking about Everything Must Go earlier. I think Arcadia gets a lot of those mid-length versions, which really just means there's just a little bit of an extended solo in the middle. Um, but this song's
Right.
proper structure, it's just built for first set closer, second set closer, encore. Like I think it's just made for that. And so yeah, I guess I like that we're seeing a lot of Arcadia encores. Kind of think it's the perfect encore song almost, just because it's such a great song and it has such a powerful building finish. The crescendo is it. I mean, it's such a huge moment and build to send everybody home happy with. So yeah, another great Arcadia encore here. So yeah, this is a really nice set. The Creatures and the Arrow are kind of the two big jams, and they're both, I would probably say, good, not great versions. Although the Creatures probably be a little bit more towards great relative to the other Creatures that we've seen this year.
Right.
Well, I do want to highlight this is the first Creatures to hit 20 minutes since Hampton. So I mean that's pretty significant, especially with how many longer, pretty standard versions we saw in 2022 and 2023. So we know they've been hanging back on it a lot this year, and only recently it started to open up a bit more. And so excited to see them make good use of the time here, which with a really really solid jam. Tomorrow Never Knows, welcome surprise. This Arrow, I mean, it's kind of like Fox Light to me. Similar kind of slow down by Cotter into a very deep, kind of darker motif. But really, really good, Western Sun cool down. Nice little explosive Empress to close the set, and Arcadia Encore. I mean, overall, this is one of the strongest shows of the tour. I think overall, it's hard to really find any serious issues with it. You've got jams. You got a jam in the first set. You got multiple jams in the second set. Great flow, great set listing. Like, I like the show a lot. Neal?
Yeah, in terms of set listing, I agree. That's strong songs throughout. I don't know if it's like excellent set listing, but it's good. Um, Creatures through Arrow here is, I think, exceptional. It's good. We had talked about this a lot when they had kind of shortened Creatures. We were like, well, thank you for shortening Creatures. I feel like there was like a lot of time in Creatures that was just kind of spent going over the same kind of ideas, right? And like we were getting tired of that. And then here we get an extended version again, but on the back half of this, it is actually like really fiery and good. So if you go and look at the Nugs reviews of the show, people are like, "This Creatures is insane," and they're not wrong. This is really good. Is it an example of like mind-bending improv? No. Is it an example of like a fucking killer jam that you would have an amazing time dancing to at a show? Absolutely. And this is the kind of thing what I'm talking about when I talk about like Yeti being a set to banger now, right? It's just they are trying to incorporate these songs that make the whole entire show vibe better, and this is an example of that. So I think that's great. And then the Arrow, I think, is good. there are a lot of people who say this Troutdale Arrow is like the better arrow of this tour over Spec, and I don't know if I agree with those folks,
Mm,
but it's good.
no.
Good arrow. Hey, I'm obligated to say on this podcast that it's a pretty good arrow, and
Well,
I
it
think it's
is.
a pretty good
It
arrow.
definitely is.
Yeah, but it's this is a playlist worthy arrow. I think it's not
Yeah.
completely boring. I think it's got some pretty interesting spots to it. They do a little bit of weird sounds, they do a little bit of their verse delay stuff, but it goes to some spots that I think are pretty interesting and interesting enough where it finds its way onto the playlist. So that's all I want to say about that arrow. I don't know. Go
There you
check it
go.
out. All right, Goose, Eugene, Oregon, very famous place. Big time shows played here. September 24th at the Cuthbert Amphitheater. We have a set one starting with Lead the Way, and especially fiery All I Need. Bust Out cover, Dragging the Line, first time since Halloween 2021. That's 229 shows for those counting at home. Butterflies, W.S. Walcott Medicine Show. Again, big bust out, 85 shows. And then an incredible set anchoring Butter Rum to close
Woo!
out this set. Hey, if you're a Butter Rum fan, like a lot of people are, this is the Butter Rum you were looking for. It's a big one. First big one since when was the last one? Earlier this tour, but in any case, huge Butter
All
Rum,
said.
Salt Shed Rum. Big deal. Um yeah, man, cover bust outs, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
the jam to write home about in the set is the All I Need. It's short. The All I Needs are short on this tour, but they can get to some pretty good spots. I think Jive, you were saying you really like this All I Need in the moment. Um, so interested to hear what you have to say about this set in general.
Well, yeah. So this All I Need and the Walkie All I Need,
Hmm.
both right about 17 minutes. Um, yeah, both really good versions. I maybe I have this one a touch higher, but nowhere near the top. I think we talked about this in part one. There hasn't really been a huge All I Need this year. There's been a handful of versions that I think are a cut above the rest, and this is one of those. But yeah, but nothing really huge. So yeah, Lead the Way. That's a nice opener. I think in line with our opener discourse, I would say Lead the Way fits in a positive way. Um, yeah, like you said, bust out covers, kind of butterflies in there, a rum to close it out. Yeah, Ryan.
I like this set a lot. I think Dragon the Line is a severely underrated and underplayed cover. I think this one could jam too. But excited to see this one come back, cross it off the stats. Walcott, always a treat. We get a little bit of a jam in this one, nothing really jammy, but more than just a 4-minute version, which was what happened the last few times they played it in 2023. But otherwise, just a really solid first set. As you mentioned, like the All I Need, really good stuff, and rum jams. Whether you like it or not, it's jamming. It's there.
Yeah,
It's
whether
happening.
you like it or not, they're going to jam it. I think
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
whole the moral of the
I'd
story
like
there. All
to
right.
I'd like to shout out my mother, who went into this West Coast tour with the promise of 2 Give It Times, and then ended up with 2 Butter Rums instead, which is her least favorite Goose song.
Right on. So all right, set two, shift. We got different stuff going on here. We get some
Oh, yeah.
jams in this set. Some good stuff. So we get gigantic pancakes. For the stats folks up there, this is one of the biggest versions ever. One of the longest jams they've done ever, which is interesting. This is a top fiver, I think, even maybe a top tenner.
7.
Um, top 10. There you go. And then a Bob Don with, which is super exciting. Then you get a tumble that kind of dances around the standard tumble territory until it doesn't, and then gets very, very interesting for the last few minutes of it. And then you get a slow ready to end the set, and then you get an encore of the song Dawn. which is a point of contention for some folks, whether or not it's a song. But I, want to take this moment to say this: Dawn is in fact a song. It just doesn't get noted as a song when they play SOS because it's part of SOS. That's all there is to it. So let's stop making this a thing. Let's stop talking about how it's not a song because it certainly is a song. It's silly to say it's not a song. It is a song, but
It's
it's
not a
not
song in the
noted
sense that, yeah,
separately. It's not noted separately when it's played as part of SOS. So
yes,
there you go. Let's put this whole thing to rest and let's stop talking about like how it's up to one or two people whether or not it's a song.
it's
It is
not.
most certainly a song. So
Um,
let's just put it to rest. I'm going to use this opportunity here to say that. So,
I
John,
can't
what do you
wait.
have to say about Dawn being a song?
I can't wait until certain people take that clip of Neal out of context.
I think I've said this before that this is very straightforward
Yes.
in two ways. In the first way, it it's a song on the album, and it's noted by the band as a song in the track listing when it's played on its own, outside of not connected to the rest of SOS. When it's played with SOS, then it's part of SOS. So yeah, it doesn't. It's not everything has to be the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sometimes it's a song and sometimes it's not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty straightforward. I think we do have it all figured out.
Some of us do.
And
Pretty cut and dry.
and what I will say too about Dawn, since we're talking about it, and then I'll work my way backwards. I've said this before. This is a fantastic encore, and my opinion remains unchanged that when Goose is up against the clock, which once in a while they do come up against the clock, and you need something on the shorter side, boom, this is your choice. This is it.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. Okay, I wanted to clarify. So the numbers you guys are throwing out there about this pancakes, were you saying like on your playlist it's top
No, no,
7
no.
and
This
top
is
10? Or you're just saying like length?
this is the
Like,
7th longest jam that Goose has ever played.
7th longest jam. Okay. Phew. Thought you were saying it was number 7 on your playlist, and I was
no,
gonna
no,
have
no, no.
to.
This is like purely in length. Although there are things I like about it, which I do want to get into. But like, yeah, no, it's just length.
Yeah.
What we're talking
Yeah. So just real quick, because this is the only other thing I want to talk about in this set is the pancakes. Yeah, the nice jam. Now, so we get into this. We get into these areas though with this pancakes that we talk about with some of these other 28-minute, 35-minute, 38-minute versions of songs where you know the true test is what's the re-listenability. Are there just segments that you really like, or as a whole does this jam you know carry weight on your playlist? And I think for me it's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? I think this is a strong kind of 30 plus minute jam in the sense that it does flow rather nicely, I think. uh, but I will also say there's not much in here, and this is same for me with like Big Modern. In fact, this is probably somewhere around the Big Modern debut on my playlist, in that it's good, but there's nothing that's just spectacular. You know, there's not there's not 28 minutes of good, but then 4 to 6 minutes of just out of this world. So yeah, now it's up there. It's just kind of good, you know, and that's good.
It's good. It's good. Yeah,
about.
for me, I agreed with you, coming out of the Eugene show. I was like, yeah, like that's how I feel about this pancakes. It's 33 minutes, but not anything crazy throughout. It has that like kind of heavier section that's really nice, and like the back half is great. And then for some reason, listening back to it this morning, it like really clicked for me. And I was just like, whoa, like this jam is awesome. I listened to it 3 times today. And full disclosure. But for me, it's like, yeah, the first 15 minutes, it's just pancakes. And I remember at the show being like, all right, like is this going to be like the Montana one? Are we just going to wrap it up 18 minutes in? It's going to be a solid pancakes, nothing crazy. But then they kind of, go sideways, start building in, get this like switching like section with Peter doing some kind of atypical, like more lead stuff on the organ, playing it a little differently than he normally does, which I fully support. I love Peter obviously unlocking new songs and new styles and ways of playing on all of his keyboards. But the organ, I feel like, still has been relegated to mostly this like we're gonna play the chords in a soaring peak, or the songs where he plays organ. So I really love what he I really love what he does on organ in this jam, and then the way that they move from there into that like heavier section, and then like they bring it down, slow it down, and then a gradual build back into the ending of Pancakes. I like this a lot, and it popped up my playlist a lot today, even. So I had it lower, definitely not around where that big modern is. It's way above that. I mean, I can
Where's
go
it
and
at?
count the slots. I'm gonna guess similar to where you have it, B. You said you had it around 17. I have it at 23. I have it at 23 on my playlist right now, which I
Too
feel like
low.
seems reasonable. Wow. All right, Mister. So I think so. I want to say if you played somebody our two descriptions of that jam with no context and then asked who had it ranked higher, I think you would absolutely think that I had it ranked higher than you.
Well,
Neal, do you
you
agree?
tend to use hyperbole.
Sure, but
Uh, yeah, this jam is cool. I think it has 3 distinct sections that are very, very good. Uh, I think I like a section of it that you don't necessarily like so much, and like the section that you have it
because it
ranked
sounds like
higher.
switching.
Like, well, the first part is like straight Medeski Martin Wood. It's fucking awesome. And so you were saying like Peter playing the organ like that.
Yeah.
He has clearly gone to Medeski school of organ playing or something. I mean, I don't know how the fuck you describe it. It's awesome. Like whatever he's doing there is not typical of what Peter does when he's playing the organ, right?
Sure.
I feel like he's obviously always improving at his instruments. He's always listening to other musicians and trying to be better. That's what all musicians do, like career musicians, right? Which is what these guys are at this point. But somehow he just tends to be a chameleon and just pick up things. And occasionally there's like a whole jam where it sounds like somebody else is playing entirely. And like that's what happens in this first part of the jam. Then you get the part that is just straight, I don't know, late 70s hard rock. That's the best way I can describe it. Bluesy hard rock, kind of Led Zeppelin-y. Like we're certainly not going to call it a heartbreaker jam, though some people were insisting that it should be called that. That's certainly not even close. But like, I mean, I understand the sentiment. It's something like that. But these are not wasted minutes. These are actually pretty. This is a pretty good jam. But I understand people's point. Like the one thing this doesn't do is kind of take you to outer space and then back. This is more of like a straightforward. We're gonna visit a few different jam sections, and we're gonna do them all pretty well, and then we're gonna wrap it up. That's what this thing is, and it's good. It's neat. And don't sleep on this tumble. This is one of the better tumbles they play on this back half of this tour. It's the year of the tumble, and measured against tumbles they played in the summer, this is just a shadow of a tumble, really. But it's still very, very good. It's different. It gets spooky and weird and like dark and dissonant at the end of this. And actually, the other thing that I wanted to say about this is before it gets to that section, I talked about this on the like, I don't know, when we were talking about the cap. There occasionally Cotter can sound like he's playing kind of melodic drumming, and this is a really good example of Cotter's melodic drumming where
Yeah.
it's almost like it is not a percussive instrument. It is like an instrument playing notes, and this is a good example of that. There's like a good stretch where it kind of gets like really nice and wide open, and then Cotter kind of just doing his thing, and then it happens again too in Redbird that comes later that I thought was really interesting. But Cotter does have this ability to have the drums sound like a melodic instrument, and this is an example of that. So it's good stuff.
100%. Before we move on, I just do want to highlight, I forgot to talk about it in the pancakes. Towards the end, like, they're a couple minutes from the end, they're building back into pancakes, and Peter starts playing loose ends.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. And
and
shut
and
down.
no, it's just it's just so funny because it's like they're in the loose ends groove, and it's like it would be so easy, for Rick just had to start playing it and start singing it, and they're in loose ends. But Rick basically is like Peter, shut the fuck up. We're 30 minutes into this jam. We're finishing this jam. Like we're
Yeah.
not
Right.
playing
Right.
loose ends right now, which I think is really funny. It's just kind of a musically like shutting him down.
A musical chicken satay, as some might say.
I think it's Trevor's call if they play loose ends.
I
Yeah.
really think it's Rick's. I think Trevor can tease loose ends, but I think most things are up to Rick.
Trevor wrote loose ends.
True.
September 26th, 2024, the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater, San Diego. Ladies and gentlemen,
Great city.
the first Southern California Goose show that's really good.
Hmm.
The first one. They did it.
I mean, it's not the first Southern California Goose show.
No, it's not. But it's the first one that you can say that was a really good show. So,
All right.
congratulations
You're
to Southern
saying that, yeah.
California. You did it. And the next one will be even better, which is, a real treat for Southern California. Anyway, first set, Turbulence in the Night Rays, Masquinada, Draconian Meter Maid, One In, One Out, Weird Fishes, Into the Mist, and So Ready. I mean, good first set, nothing crazy here. Mist gets a little out there. But once again, Rick has an aversion to like these like fast-paced funk grooves. You get into it, kind of get like a stop-start thing going, and then he just is like, all right, we're done. Like, this Mist went through the usual Bliss stuff that it's been doing, and then it kind of got like a little more aggressive, this faster funk, and then Rick was just like, yeah, we're done. We're going to play So Ready now to close the set. So interesting that it seems to be a very similar motif that they get into that kind of makes Rick feel like, all right, this jam is over. But yeah, that's what that's what I got on this first set.
Masquinada, first set banger every time.
Woo!
And this one stayed in his head too. He was thinking about Masquinada through this whole entire show.
Yeah.
So that's important. What else to say about the set? I mean, there are kind of non-remarkable versions of a whole bunch of songs in this set. Draconian Meter Maid, One In, One Out. These are new ones that we get jams in. Neither are standout versions of what we've heard so far. Weird Fishes, always freaking awesome. The one thing I have to say about Weird Fishes is that it is a 3-guitar song, and Jeff now plays a guitar. There are 3 guitars on the stage. Jeffrey, learn how to play the song. You have to at this point.
Please.
Like, I mean, commit. Just do it. And
you've been talking about 3-guitar Goose. This is the opportunity.
This is it. Like, this is the one that they really got to master. And if he does, like, I'm not even like saying this tongue in cheek, like just be like, Jeff, play the song. Like, it would be so fucking awesome if they do all 3 guitar parts in this song, because out of like all of the Radiohead songs in the universe, this one is just so cool the way it just kind of comes together, because it's a very non-traditional kind of rock and roll song, and it just kicks ass. And it would be great if they actually played it all 3 parts. Yeah, that's what I have to say about the set. It really, there's really not much more to say about it. Like, just gotta be honest.
Yeah. B?
I agree with Neal.
Yeah.
There we go. Moving on to set 2 here. Madhavan, Redbird, This Old Sea, Factory Fiction with a Zalt encore. This Madhavan is great. Really great stuff. I will say, you got the Masquinada teases. I guess maybe great is too strong a word.
It's a 25-minute Madhavan.
Like that. It's a
Which means
25-minute
it doesn't
Madhavan.
suck. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. But I think a lot of this Madhavan is just pretty standard Madhavan. I guess you're right. They do find their way back to, a standard like kind of charging build fairly quickly. I do want to highlight in the last few minutes of this jam, Trevor just like unleashes hell. He just suddenly becomes he like, I guess he's playing and he's suddenly like, you know what, I'm gonna play like I'm the lead instrument in this jam. And the last couple of minutes, you just get like some of the most aggressive upfront Trevor bass that we've heard ever. And it's awesome. And I want more of it. Trevor, please play like this more often because it's amazing.
Yeah, we were talking about this on the day after show, and like Jive is gonna freak out when he hears me say this because he hasn't heard me say this yet. But it's like there are moments where he kind of plays in the style of, not saying he is improving on or doing better than, but plays in the style of Phil Lesh in this set. And yeah, he takes the bass and kind of makes it feel like a lead instrument, just the way that Phil did. Um, is
Hey,
it as
just the way that Phil does.
just the way that Phil does? Yeah, I agree there. So that part is neat. I thought that was exciting stuff in this one, and then the Redbird that actually comes later. This is actually a jam of where it feels like it's being pushed completely by Trevor, uh, which is absolutely fascinating. I don't think that ever really happens at all. Like there's always a little bit of Rick, there's always a little bit of Peter, but this one everybody just kind of steps back, which kind of tells you a little bit about like where this Redbird stands on my like list of Redbirds. Um, but yeah, it's fascinating just how much he's in the forefront there.
Yeah, I do really like this set too. Um, I disagree that the Phil Lesh comparison would have some type of negative effect on me or make me angry in some way. Um, but so the Matavan, so yeah, I mean, I think when I first heard this Matavan, I was enthralled by that. Like, there's probably a good 7 or 8 minutes of just really chill, jamming, coming out of the proper part of the song, and it's cool. But it's one of those things that you listen you listen to that, for a second or third time, and I think it starts to feel a little bit, less unique and more just they just chilled it out for a while, um, which is cool. But again, maybe nothing super unique there. And then yeah, your standard awesome, Matavan build and finish there. So, but yeah, for me also, it's this set's about this set and this show is about this Redbird. Um, and this Redbird has grown on me. I haven't been really big on many Redbirds since the Cap,
Yeah,
and that's that's still the king of the Redbirds for this year by far. It's not even close. But
agreed.
I think this could be I think this could be my number two Redbird. It'll be down the list a little bit, the overall playlist, but yeah, I really like it. It's really kind of grown on me. And there's been some Redbirds this year that have fairly standard jams, and then kind of a cool, maybe a few minutes at the end. You know, this one really holds my interest, and it really drives forward. It's kind of a hard driving. Like you said, Trevor. I think I agree. With your comment about Trevor leading the jam. I think that's accurate. But yeah, this is a kind of a powerful bird, and then a nice C. And I think with this new ending, the abbreviated "this old C" isn't so abbreviated. You know, it's it doesn't leave you. I think before we used to be like, oh, this old C. It's either going to be 6 minutes, zero jam, or it's going to be go type two. And so I think I like this being the new short version. It feels more complete. It feels like
Sure.
more filling. Anyway, just to wrap it up, then standard stuff the rest of the way. Factory Fiction, standard but always great to see, and then the quick Zalt encore, which yeah, I think one of you said before about Zalt, like the really short, tight version, yeah, that fits the encore spot when you've got 6 or 7 minutes as well as the Dawn does. So yeah, Ryan.
100%. I think the factory fiction call here is kind of genius. Because given trends with Goose, like I think a lot of us were expecting it at the Greek. 10th anniversary, big show, special show. They're obviously going to play factory fiction, and so I think playing it the show before in San Diego was a really really great move by the band. I love this call. My only complaint about it is it only ends up being 12, 13 minutes because they have a curfew. And it's a shame because there's a minute of this jam where had they had another 10, 15 minutes, this could have gone somewhere really, really cool. So I think that they kind of lost out there with the placement. And just, that's one of the things with like songs at the end of the second set this year, with the way that the show times have been going. Like if they play a drip field, if they play this factory fiction, anything that's closing the second set isn't really going to have the time to explore the improvisational ideas, even if they really want to. So I think, every once in a while, Goose, it's like, it's okay to non-core. I think at this point, you could have just played a 20-minute factory fiction, walked off, and that would have been incredible. I think you don't always need the encore. As nice as it is to have that kind of buffer and like the complete, like, we know this is going to be the end. Sometimes you can play through if you hit a vein of inspiration, like they kind of hint at in this factory fiction. Neal?
I don't know if I agree with that anymore. There was a stretch when they were like a club band, and that wasn't too long ago, by the way, where they could just kind of be like, yeah, fuck it, we don't do encores. And then they can kind of stay out on the stage and kind of stretch it out. I think now when they're playing these larger venues, this is a larger venue for sure. They can't really get away with that anymore because it's the expectation that when you're playing these bigger sheds, that like that's what everybody does. Like you have to play an encore, and they're kind of backed into it at this point. So it's tough. And maybe when they get even bigger and they're like kind of selling out these like really huge sheds, they can kind of say like, well, we can do whatever we want, and they go back to kind of what their natural inclination is, which is like not play an encore, right? Just like stay out there and do their thing. So I mean, we'll see. It's it's really really hard to say where that's all going to end up, but
Yeah. Another solution, 4 hours before curfew ticket time.
yeah, definitely heard that one.
Yep. Anyway, let's head down to the 10th anniversary of the first Goose show in Los Angeles.
Special night.
They're going to go hard.
Okay. Well, let's see. Set 1, Dr. Darkness.
Woo!
Hot Love and the Lazy Poet. Turned Clouds. Echo of a Rose. No California. Big Modern. Give It Time. And so they did end up going big with the Big Modern.
Yeah.
Which and prior to the Big Modern, so this is a good set. This is an above average set. I think for the most part it's quite good. I think the Doctor Darkness opener is always a little tricky for me. I think especially we've been talking about some of these other openers where they come out, dancey tune, nice loose jam, that type of thing. I think Dr. Darkness is different. It's a different choice than that.
It's an opener.
Yeah, and it's okay to make different choices sometimes. You got to mix it up. So that's what you do. Really enjoyed No California. I think that's a really nice addition on the cover side. So zero problem seeing that. This Big Modern, I mean, this is my, I like the first debut Big Modern. This one's just as good. You guys might like it more than the debut. You probably do. They're both really good. They're both excellent versions. This particular version, yeah, I mean, it's the cornerstone jam of the first set. We're gonna get a big jam in the second set, so it's not jam of the show, but it's the number 2 jam of the show. And yeah, it's just, again, what we can't. I guess we don't want to repeat ourselves about Big Modern, but this I'm I'm happy to see this on the set list as much as we are, and I'm excited when I hear them go into it on a stream. I mean, this is one of their better new songs without a doubt.
Better
Um,
songs
yeah,
in
just
general.
just just fun stuff. And then yeah, Give It Time, Set Closer coming out of that big modern jam.
Modern,
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah,
large, contemporary.
really strong finish to this set. I mean, you could go all the way back to just echo No California, Big Modern, Give It Time. You know that's a big finish to this set for sure, Ryan.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at these bigger shows that Goose tends to start slow and really ramp up in the second half of the first set. Sorry. I mean, Fiddler's Night too. You look at the first few songs of the show, it's like, nothing crazy. But then second half of the first set, it's like, boom, here's a huge jam. Boom, here's what you've been looking for. So it's really interesting, and I immediately thought of when they went into Dr. Darkness, I immediately thought of London Night 2 last year, when Peter was like, it's the last night of tour. We're going to go super hard tonight. And then they opened with Dr. Darkness, which is like the opposite of
Strap
that.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Strap in. But, you get through Dr. Darkness, Hot Love, Turn Clouds, your 3-pack of openers, as it were. And then Echo immediately picks things up. This is 11 minutes long, but, they get out there. They get into this, like, very exploratory, spacey zone. Peter with the delayed clav, amazing stuff. A little bit of a ripcord into No California, but with this song not being played for 37 shows, hard to be upset about the ripcord. I think this is pretty much unanimously a fan favorite. I don't know if I've seen someone say that they don't like No California. And I really hope that it doesn't take another 37 shows for this song to show back up again. This is too good. I think looking back at the one from Fiddlers, which is one of my most listened to tracks from this year for sure. Like I just go back to it constantly. This is an incredible cover for Goose. It sounds so good. It grooves so well. We recently had a thing. Vickers caught the attention of Ilse Juber's mother on Twitter about this song. So that was interesting. This cover is amazing. I can't say enough about it. I want to hear it more. Obviously,
Usually the mothers catch my attention.
Yeah. Ilse's mom, really, really nice lady, came on, said a few things, and then Ilse herself actually commented on a few things. She's excited about their cover of No California. And you know what? If I were I would be excited about it as well because it is awesome. You listen to her version, it's great. And you listen to Goose's version, it does it justice. And then some. It's one of those covers that really elevates the song. So I don't know. Backing up a few. Well, I mean, Jive, you got something to say about No California?
I was just gonna say Kylie doesn't, hop into the thread.
Where's Kylie's
You know what
mom?
I mean?
Where's Kylie's mom at?
Like
the
Ilse's
thing
down.
with No California,
She's happy,
Yeah.
and appreciative.
Sure. Right. Yeah,
Right.
we got her mom's attention, but yeah, and we saw when Goose posted, if you go scroll back on their Twitter a little while, they posted a video in June of them rehearsing No California backstage, which transitions mid-video into them playing it on stage. It's really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, one of the coolest things about this cover to me is that this is not like a deep cut from the 80s. They dug up. It's like Ilse Juber released this song in 2023. And Rick heard it and was like, I want to play that. And then they played it, and it's amazing.
So, I want to be clear about one thing.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of Ilse Juber before, you've just not heard of her name. She has written fucking everything. So you've heard
What?
one of her
Really?
songs. Yes. Go Google it. She's written for every major artist. Not every major artist, obviously. That's hyperbole. But she's written for many, many major pop artists. She's an incredible songwriter. She comes from a pedigree of songwriters. I think her dad was a guitar player in Wings. Yes, her dad played with Paul McCartney, obviously.
Here we go. She has co-written songs for Beyonce, Miley Cyrus, Panic
Yeah.
at the Disco.
Yeah, that one is a fucking mind blower. It's like Beyonce and Panic at the Disco. Yeah.
Lil Nas X,
Yeah.
Casey Musgraves, Weezer.
Yeah. These are all huge bands. We don't need to go further on that. So, all right. Just wanted to point that out. Ilse Juber, kind of a big deal. So the fact that Ilse Juber is like excited about Goose's cover of her song is pretty exciting. I think that's exciting stuff. And I think he does it justice. You listen to her version, you listen to his being Rick's, you know, stands out. So, backing up a few steps here.
Sorry, there are big names on this list. I'm like kind of blown away.
Well, yeah, like give us a list then. Keep going.
I didn't know this. Okay, you got like, I mean, just like in pop culture, like Britney Spears, Shawn Mendes, Nick Jonas, Demi Lovato. Is Noah Cyrus a big name? That sounds like Drake, Mariah Carey.
Drake's Canadian. I'm not sure if you were aware.
Jennifer Lopez. Oh, she co-wrote Fireball by Pitbull.
I have no idea what that is, but okay.
Some people do. It was a song.
Do you know what it is? Do you know Fireball?
2014. B's too old for that.
No, I'm asking you. Like, you're the young guy on the podcast here. You're supposed to know what all this shit is. Oh my god, where the hell are we? Are we set one at the Greek?
Let's talk about the big modern here, Neil.
Yeah, well, all right. All right. No, I want to actually talk about the Echo of a Rose. This is the other Echo of a Rose that I alluded to when we were talking about it earlier in the show, which is it was like almost gonna jam, and then they kind of just moved on to something else, which was this No California, and it turned out to be pretty great. And then this Big Modern, I think, is the Big Modern, not the 36 or 38-minute version. This is the one that absolutely fucks, and it is, it just coalesced into what this song, I think, is what we imagined it would be after the first version of it. And then, we just kind of came full circle and got there. And then set list wise, you think about like when they played at the Greek last time, they played the straightest show they could. They played all of their songs. It was almost like they were playing like a big audition for something. And they did it again. They did it in this show, but they took a totally different approach. Totally different approach. They did a little bit of jamming. They kind of showed what they could do with like their newer stuff. And it just didn't feel as tight, didn't feel as awkward. And like this first set just flows incredible. I think this is like the ideal Goose show. If they put this on Wax, I'd be stoked. Are there huge jams in this set? No. You might make some faces.
Is there a huge jam in the second set? Yes.
Yes, there is. And it's a killer jam. And it doesn't have to be for us folks who are super stoked about jams. This set flows great. I mean, look at it on paper. I mean, Dr. Darkness, I give you that one. A perplexing opener. It really is. It really is. Hot Love, love it. Turn Clouds, great. Echo of a Rose, a little bit of a jam. Kind of like a, just a little bit of a jam. Then you get No California, absolute banger. Big Modern, banger. Give It Time, banger to close out the set. I just love the way this flows. It's great.
Sure. Yeah, totally. But, there's always a little but, you know what I mean? Because I bet you would prefer if you dropped Dr. Darkness.
Of course.
Played the rest of the set as is, but threw that 7 minutes onto the Echo. So that's the thing, right? That's not the set. You know what I mean?
Get rid of the Turn Clouds and give 5 of that to Echo and 5 of that to Big Modern.
We didn't say throw this on Wax because it's just perfect. I mean, I don't know about that.
No, I'm just saying, like,
and the Yeti pumped up kicks Yeti. Like, I don't need that on vinyl at my house. You know what I mean?
Well, Neal does, and we'll get to that.
I do. I love that. Like, so
speaking
don't get me
of
started on that yet.
Yeah. So let's segue into set 2. And as part of this segue, I forgot to mention in the previous night's Redbird, I can hear Eminence Front. And I can't remember exactly who I'm hearing that from. I think maybe it's from Trevor. And so next time you listen to that San Diego Redbird, which will probably be soon because it's something that you want to re-listen to fairly often, keep your ears open for some Eminence Front teases that aren't officially notated. But I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call it.
Send me a timestamp. The committee will review.
So the reason I mention that, of course, is because set 2 at the Greek, we open with Eminence Front. Goose opens with Eminence Front. And yeah, well, before I comment on this Eminence Front, let me run through the rest of the
Sure.
set. Dripfield, the aforementioned Yeti Pumped Up Kicks Yeti, Arise, Arcadia, and they encore that shit. So I think Eminence Front is a really fun set 2 opener. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that I always thought that, but I think that now, and that's what's important. So so really fun way to open this set, especially when you're about to drop this drip field, the Greek drip field. Do we call it? Is somebody probably calling it the Greek field online? I don't know. So what are the?
I don't
Nobody
think
has
that's
done
been
that
called yet,
yet.
but
Yeah,
you
I
know
don't want to
what?
give anybody
It's now a
any dumb
thing.
ideas.
Well,
Well, you just
too
did,
late.
so
You're
thanks
too
for
late.
that.
It's a thing. The Greek field. I'm tweeting that right now.
Yeah, the strip field is amazing.
Hmm.
And so I was a huge fan of the drip field that came earlier in this tour. Um, and help me out, Ryan. Where's the other big? We talked about it on we talked about it on part one during the Salt Shed review. I really like that drip field. I think it's so good. And this one feels like Goose saying, "Okay, yeah, we really like what we did at Salt Shed 2. Now we're going to take almost a half an hour and see what happens." I don't know which one's better. I don't know that I've got them slotted in yet to make that call myself. But the bottom line is we just got two of arguably the top two or top three at most probably drip fields that they've played. You know,
Top two.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are both incredible versions. This one doesn't do this one doesn't have the Thekla "All I Need" vibes.
All right. We know what you're after.
And it doesn't quite kind of take it down. This one drives a little bit more. It has a really nice jam. It slows down a little bit before it peaks out, but I think Salt Shed slowed things down a little bit more, got a little bit more ambient. But yeah, this is a phenomenal version of Dripfield. Yeti Pumped Up Kicks Yeti. That's just interesting for me always to see. Arise. I think this is probably when I look at my list of originals that I'm tracking show gaps on. This is the one that I hit after every show down at the bottom and add another number onto it. This is the one down towards the bottom of the list that I'm just like, why is this not being played? You know, and
Yeah.
it's just such a powerful song. So super stoked to see that come up. And then Arcadia. So just quickly here, just like we're saying with the Arcadia Encore, I think similar type of thing here. Yeah, it's like a big Arcadia to finish the set. It's perfect for it. Perfect spot. Let's do it every time. It goes hard every time. The Arcadia peak every time is going to bring the house down. So perfect spot for it. And then Hot Tea Encore. We've gotten some
Encore
we've
that
gotten
shit.
some extended
Somebody just
Encore
versions
did
that shit.
recently. So I guess this might be a better spot for it than the 18-minute set one opener or whatever it is.
Closer. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, this drip field to me is better than Salt Shed. I think this is the GOAT, in my opinion. I think this and Salt Shed there's a pretty sizable gap for me in between this and, the next tier, which would be Pullman Yards and Fox Theater 2023.
What about Cleveland?
But
You don't have Cleveland up there?
no, I don't. I never have. I've never been high on the just like Shama jam for 10 minutes. But for me, this drip field is absolutely incredible. I completely disagree with your assessment that they don't really bring it down as much as Salt Shed. Like, yeah, they don't have that kind of start-stop thing, Legend Valley Madhavan kind of vibe that the Salt Shed one has. But this one comes way down. And whereas that one is more about like Rick leading, you have a very full band quiet major key build here. You've got Peter just doing beautiful things on the OB6 in that quiet part. Amazing synth work. And I mean, to me, this is just like a completely breathtaking jam. And this just reinforces like play Dripfield in the middle of a second set. I understand that it is amazing as an 11-minute closer or encore, but when the two versions that you've played on this tour are of the quality of Salt Shed and the Greek, I mean, I really hope that come, the next leg of tour when they come back in Nashville and through DC and even, I mean, hopefully the Balls give us a nicely placed Dripfield at Goosemas, New Year's, and into 2025. Like, look at your placement of Dripfield and be like, we are playing incredible versions of this song when we give it 25 minutes. Like, I really hope that the band recognizes that and is interested in pursuing that further, because I think we're still just at the tip of the iceberg for this song. I think for so many plays of its career, it's been the closer, and it's been just like the exclamation point on a set or the exclamation point on a show. And it being the improvisational centerpiece of this set and this show, the way that it is incredible. So please, more of this. Thank you, Goose. This jam is incredible. This is my number 10 jam of the year also, currently.
Whoa.
Yep.
All right. I mean, it's good. It's really good. The cool thing about Dripfield right now is that I think Goose is embracing the fact that Dripfield is one of their better songs, and they're
The
going to
best.
jam it now. I think when they introduced it, they were very, cautious about jamming this out. They wanted it to be the thing that it is, which is like, the primal banger, which we kept saying again and again and again. And then it got to be repetitive, right? It's 17, 16, 18 minutes of just kind of that same vibe. And now we're getting some jammed versions of this, which, I mean, holy shit, I couldn't be more grateful, because it's like the greatest place to kind of start a jam from, which is just like a non-typical kind of rock and roll space. You know what I mean? And this one goes to kind of like a somewhat familiar space, insofar as like when I listen to this, I hear, the soul shine, everything must go. I also hear a little bit of the cap all or cap sorry, the cap into the mist. And it has that kind of like triumphant like feel at the end of it, which I think is awesome, absolutely incredible. And the more that we can do this coming out of Dripfields, the better. But I mean, I think there are like really great parts of this set otherwise. I think this whole show threaded together is really great. So you think about the Eminence front that opens the set, it brings you into that space that like feels kind of in line with what, Dripfield is. And then you exit all of that, you get the Yeti pumped up kicks Yeti. Like, all right, so you can hate on this and you can think about historical versions of this, but Yeti right now is a set two banger. The band thinks so because they keep playing it in the second set. And when they play it, it is like, like I want to not use dance party to describe it, because it's not what it is. It feels good. The jam feels good. And the segue out of Yeti back, or out of pumped up kicks back into Yeti, is incredible. Go and listen to it. Like, I mean,
I
you
don't
can hate it if
understand.
you want. Oh, it's a re-entry. Of course, it's a fucking re-entry. Like, it's like because they're going from one song into another. That's not a way of like, like saying it's like bad. But I don't know. I think it's really good. You can hate Yeti all you want. I love Yeti. It's a fucking fantastic song. Now it's a banger, so you have to get used to it. So that is what that is. But thread this all together. Like, this is just, it's a great set. This is really good music, beginning to end.
I mean, I don't understand your point about the Yeti reentry. Like that's like saying like the Creature's Shama is a really good segue. Like, yeah, they went from one song and a four on the floor groove into another song with a four on the floor groove.
Stop, full stop. Like, you are like equating this with something else. No, that
I
is
am.
not what I'm saying. This particular version, this one, sounds really, really good. So they have done this transition many times before. I'm talking about this one. So if you're talking about Creature's Shama transition in general as like a way of saying I'm wrong, like that's not the right angle to approach
Okay.
this.
Anyway, Arise. As B said, really excited to see this one come back. 126 show bust out. Last played at the Cap in 2023, 310-23. So yeah, this was amazing. This was beautiful. And then yeah, not much to say on the Arcadia NT that B didn't already cover. So that covers our last amazing show of the tour. And let's get through the last couple of things here. Neal, Frost.
Oh yeah, Frost.
Stanford, California. Goose does the thing again where they play the tour closer one show before the last show of tour.
Yeah, so that's what happened here. So Stanford, I mean, I guess it's San Francisco, right? Oakland area, Bay Area. So you get an Animal opener, California Magic, Silver Rising, Feel It Now, Rockdale, Fish in the Sea, and then a Thatch. And
No one told them it wasn't a festival.
really feels like a festival. I don't have anything to really say about the set. You would think like Rockdale is like the jam anchor of this. I don't know if it's great. I wouldn't say it's great. It's
It's
just
very
it's
good.
a Rockdale that's about 15 minutes long. Fish in the Sea like always fucks. Every time they play it it's awesome. It's like No California. It's one of those songs that they just kind of found out there in the world that nobody really knows, but once they hear it, they're like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
song should be famous."
Yeah.
Right. So that's what happens here. So yeah, efficiency is great, and then the
And
thatch
Thatch
is
fucks.
one of the most unremarkable thatches I think they've ever played, which is saying a
I
lot.
wouldn't go that far, but I would say that at
Yeah.
this point, the 16-minute, major key pivot in the Thatch and really awesome peak, like while you're at the show, you're like, this Thatch is awesome. Like, yeah, it's Thatch, it's awesome, and
Yeah,
that's all
so
you
I
have to
think
say
that
about it.
agrees with what I said. It's an
Yeah.
unremarkable thatch,
No, but
but
I
yeah,
wouldn't say this is the most unremarkable because they've
yeah,
played like a 10-minute version of the song, which is arguably more unremarkable than this.
yeah,
But
fair,
yeah,
fair.
for 2024, it's an unremarkable Thatch. Jive?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think this is a very purposeful set by the band, and jams or no jams, like that or not, I think this was incredibly purposeful. This Thatch, I, I this is not a playlist version of Thatch by any means, but if you like a nice blissful peak, the
Listen to the Boston version.
man, that's not what that version is though. That version is a lot more than that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
Boston is
So this
Saltshed.
Thatch is for the common man.
well. So here, Salt Shed's the great version. Boston's a really good version, and this is a good, just blissful peak version. But look, the only reason I say this is because I don't earmark this one as unremarkable. I think that sounds too negative to me because I think there are unremarkable thatches being played. This is actually a pretty good, C plus B minus version with a straight C minus being unremarkable, if that makes sense.
So you're just splitting hairs.
But here's the thing: you can't on one hand say things are phenomenal that are just average. You know what I mean? And then say something's unremarkable when it's slightly above average. I think you do have to split hairs a little bit more when there's if they're going to play this song 12 times, then yeah, what does separate version 8 from version 3? You are splitting hairs. You know what I mean? So I think, I just trying to be clear with how I'm referring to it versus saying phenomenal on one end and unremarkable on
Whoa,
the
whoa,
other.
whoa, whoa! Hold on. Phenomenal is Ryan's words. Unremarkable is mine, and I stand by it. This is an unremarkable version of Thatch. However, let's talk about the second set.
Speaking of unremarkable,
Holy shit! I mean, an 18-minute arrow. We talk about like long arrows kind of going nowhere on this show.
Man, and after the way it's been going this year, like you'd be so hopeful.
Yeah, you would. And then, so, yeah, I mean, we're rewarded for all of our whining about arrows with an 18-minute arrow that, I mean, I don't know.
But there's a
Unremarkable.
reason why. But there's a reason why that this arrow went nowhere, and you're about to tell us.
Yeah, I am. And like, this is a tricky thing. And like, I'm going to get myself in trouble by saying it, but I'm going to say it. So, Traveler's LMEG doesn't necessarily make it a great show. So, you think back to like big rarities that you throw into a show, and like the big one that sticks out in my mind is like if Fish plays like a harpua in a show, you're like, oh, that's the show they played harpua. Like holy crap, everything that happened around it was like so amazing, and that's the best comparison I can give to a Traveler's Elmeg at this point. Except Traveler's Elmeg goes on what seems like forever, and then it weighs a show down. It takes away from the improv. It takes away from all the other amazing songs this band can play, and then it just kind of makes it flat, and it makes the set feel like not so great. And like maybe it feels different for folks when they're there in the moment. I've seen a handful of these live, and then that maybe makes it feel not so great for me. But it just, I think it kind of ruined the second set. It made it kind of suck. It needed something to make it feel, I don't know, fun. And the hunger site wasn't enough to end it off. It just wasn't enough to bring it back to the point where it was like a dance party.
It
The
was a
two
great
songs
hunger
are
site.
too slow to be in a second set. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, if you look back at the 4 Travelers Elmegs that they've played this year, I think if you're going to pick the shows that, like, if you look at the dates that they were going to play this year, the venues and what day they were falling on where in the tour, I think Fiddlers, Forest Hills, and Frost all make sense. If you're like, okay, there are 4 Travelers Elmegs on this tour, where are you going to, or this year, where are you going to put them? And I think that those 3 make sense. I think Boston is the outlier, is like, why did they play that there? And we talked about that in the last episode, but I agree with you, Neal. I think, with the amount of time that this takes up without a lot of improvisation, this is an 18-minute LMEG that doesn't really do much. All it does is, earlier in the set, you have this arrow that they're looking ahead, like, we need to have enough time to play 35 minutes of Traveler's Elmeg, or 30 minutes of Traveler's Elmeg, so we can't go too long on this arrow, because also we want to play this hunger site. And it's just, I don't like that. I like their ability to improvise and be like, we have this set planned, but we might go, we might play an amazing 27-minute arrow that then means we have to cut a song. But in this case, they are very set on the fact that they're gonna play the Traveler's Elmeg, and they don't want to cut it. So yeah, I'm on board with you here, Neal.
So let me ask you guys a question. So at the Frost Amphitheater on this night, how many people were there? Like what's the estimate?
I think it was a few thousand.
So a few thousand. Out of those few thousand people as a whole, what would you say is the average number of shows that those people are going to, Goose shows those people are going to go to this year?
But that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So the point is, like, some of these folks are doing maybe a handful of shows, or they're doing this little run, or whatever it is, And here's the thing, like, every time you've been at a show and seen Elmeg, like, you have a good time. Like, it's a powerful, when you get to the big chorus at the end. I mean, it's,
Sure.
you're definitely digging it.
Keep my
Now,
hand.
to your point, Neal, yeah, it's a half an hour. So think about when to drop it, you know. But it's not like they've played it 12 times, in 40 shows.
4 is a lot,
Yeah.
though.
So you could argue that. I'll accept that argument. That is that one too many. It's not 3 or 4 too many. No, it's not 4 too many. Come on. now we're just being mean.
No, I really mean it. Like it just, this is one of those
Okay.
things that they do. Like when it comes out, they release it, they play it a bunch. Like they did it with Dark Horse, and like they're probably never going to do this again. So this is not like a thing that we can expect Goose to do all the time. But I think it's fair to say that this really just deflates the tires in this show. It makes it not so much fun. I think they're I don't know. It is a gigantic amount of time.
Well, your point about this being like Seekers, this is why I don't like Seekers in the second set, because the second set to me, and I think to most of us, is about like, here's where anything can happen. Here's where the big jams are going to happen. And they start a song and you have no idea where it's going to go. And they start Seekers or they start Travelers, and you're like, okay, I know how the next 15 minutes, I know how the next 30 minutes are going to go. And there's no real chance for improv. And now LMEG has the potential. It has jammed. Hopefully it will jam again, because I think it's naive to say that they're not going to keep playing Travelers LMEG a lot, because, 4 times since June, like, this is in the rotation. They're going to keep playing it, but I would like to see them do what they did at Forest Hills. If they really want to play it, open a second set with the Travelers LMEG and just jam the shit out of the LMEG.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like the same thing with Factory Fiction. Like, it would be nice if they just
Yeah, but
jam the shit out
Factory
of it.
Fiction is a better song.
That's kind of my point here,
Yeah.
Ryan. Like, like you're kind of agreeing with me. Yeah.
I am
I
agreeing
think
with you.
I think LMAG's a great. I think it's Travelers that needs to be shortened here. I think it's the 11, 12 minutes of Travelers
Sure.
that you're tacking on to the LMAG
Yeah.
that's the issue. A 14 or 15-minute LMAG with the emotional punch that it has, I get it. Like, that's a completely different animal than 30 minutes of Travers LMAG every time.
Right.
No deviation. But so I think there's some middle ground for sure. I mean, I think look, yeah, I think for some folks in attendance, they enjoy it. They enjoy, because again, I mean, I think El Meg is just a powerful song, because we can carve up these sets all night long and talk about, well, here's 15 minutes of this set that I think is throwaway, and here's 12 minutes here, and here's 24 minutes here. This one keeps cropping up together and it's 30 every time. So I get that. But, you know, it, there's worse 30-minute segments, I guess, out there than Travelers Elmeg.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's like a weird hill to die on. I guess it's mine. I just don't like these two songs together. I never have. Like, I saw him do it at Fred, and like it was like supposed to be like one of these moments where it was like, oh shit, like we're seeing this like really incredible thing, and it just didn't feel like an incredible thing. I don't know. Um, we talk about like Elmeg jamming. Elmeg's jammed once in my memory,
True.
one time in San Francisco, right? And so, like,
1:30:22 for those
at
who are
least jam the
curious.
shit out of it, like you
Yeah.
heard something. I don't know. It just hasn't happened, and it just feels like two songs that are sandwiched together for like because it was on an album, I guess, or because it's
Yeah.
rare, and like that, I have a hard time as a live music fan being excited about anything because either of those things don't really feel great to me. Like it has to be like great music or great jamming.
So,
I don't know.
real quick before we wrap this up and move on to, I think, the last show, second to last show.
We've got 2 more. Yep.
When you look at this set too, there's a couple of interesting things to point out. Arrow and Elmeg are both exactly 18 minutes and 7 seconds. And all 5 of the set 2 and encore songs have an 8 in their timing. I'm just saying that might be a scoregami.
I have no idea what the fuck is happening.
All right. And then we get a surprise announcement of Goose coming back to LA on October 1st for a show at the Troubadour benefiting La Playa Centro Comunitario, which is near, I believe, where they're playing Viva El Gonzo, which actually we should discuss at the end of this episode a little bit, which we will when we get to the end of this episode. But this show, it's a 500 capacity venue. This is Goose's smallest show outside of Europe since 2020.
Oh no. I would say that when was Newport? Newport was 2022.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you're right. Newport. You're right.
Yeah, so
I forgot about
Newport. Since Newport.
I was thinking like Boulder was the only small show since then.
Newport
but
was
Newport's a good
incredibly
point.
small. I was in that venue. It was tight.
So the smallest one since Newport, all their stuff was already on the way to Memphis. So they were playing like rented rigs. Peter was back to the double Nord and clav. Rick had one Fender amp, super small setups for everybody. Jeff was standing the whole show. It was a whole thing. But first set We get Drive, All I Need, Indian River, Cantaloupe Island, Born, Seekers, War Pigs with Will Forte on vocals, and Tumble. This is like this is a vibe show. You can tell as soon as they come out with a no jam drive into a 10-minute All I Need, it's going to be a vibe show, which makes sense. They're throwing down in the club, having a good time. Hopefully we get the boards soon. At the time of this recording, we do not have boards.
No boards.
Peter has said that the boards are coming. I only really want the boards for one song in the second set. But Will Forte singing War Pigs is it's Shama. Will Forte singing War Pigs with the band. It's just like, it's pretty funny. I kind of like it. The videos I've seen are just like, they're clearly having a blast. Peter stepping out onto the speaker to sing. If you watch the video, if you look in the bottom bottom left hand corner, right at the beginning, you see friend of the pod Matt having a very good time. But I also love the way that as the song starts, you can watch Peter already knows that he wants to go and stand on the speaker during his solo, so he like moves some people's drinks out of the way so he can step on there, which I thought was pretty funny. A very Peter thing to do. But overall, nothing from this set that I want to go back to. Cantaloupe Island, always fun when it pops up.
I think it would have been a lot more rock and roll to just kick those fucking drinks over when you get up there. You know what I mean? Playing War Pigs.
Yeah, God damn it, Peter.
You know what
Let's
I mean?
go.
Like,
Yeah. Or just like
chug
pick them up and
yeah.
just fucking chug them and then throw them at the crowd. Yeah. Like, embrace that shit, Peter. Like, come on.
It's War Pigs.
So yeah, I've listened to the audience recording of this show and watch a little bit of video. So I was really excited when I saw that we've had some celebrity sit-ins, and I hadn't always been super thrilled, about any of them, but I was Will Forte. I was a huge fan of The Last Man on Earth. Did you guys watch that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was so sad that they ended that because I thought it was such an incredible show, and I thought there was more they could have done, like with his brother. And anyway.
It was ripcorded.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited for the soundboards, just like you are, and I think for the same reason. I did kind of listen through, like I said, to the audience recordings, and the Born has a little bit of a jam to it. This show is all pretty much, I think, as you would expect, kind of high energy. Small club show. They're definitely playing the hits at this one. This is just. Yeah. It's a great set list. And so, it's the Ship of Fools too. It's like, oh man, I've been waiting for them to play this, as Goose proper electric. And
we're not in the second.
I'm sorry.
I'm
just gonna give all my thoughts now and then mute myself.
Well, that's fair. You know what? Let's just throw out second set: Creatures, Shama, Sinnerman, Angborg, Everything Must Go, Ship of Fools, Pancakes, Slow Ready Dawn.
No, I was just about done. It was just the Ship of Fools. I want that on the soundboard, and I want them to keep playing it. And I don't know. This is one of those songs after knowing that Areblo plays it. This is the top one that it was like, oh my gosh, you guys are playing it. Why isn't Goose playing it? And so yeah, and then Slow Ready Dawn. I liked that as well. I think that's a really good way to close things down at the end of the night too. So
just play SOS.
Two great songs. Not much to say about this show. This show is a vibe. It's a party. Everybody's having, a party. We're here. It's not about the big jams. That's all I'm trying to say here. War Pigs, I guess that's fun. The one audience recording that I heard, you can hear Bert Kreischer, of all people, just losing his shit while this is happening, which is actually fascinating. That there is like an audience recording where there's a few hundred people there, and above all others, you could hear Kreischer just going fucking bananas, which is great. like good for
Yeah.
him, good for everybody who was there.
Well, Matt was saying on the day after show that like during I think it was Slow Ready, he said, where he like
He was
turned
like
around and he saw
sobbing,
like
yeah.
Bert just like in tears. Friend of the
Yeah, I
pod,
mean,
Bert Kreischer, mind you.
friend of the pod. I mean, Bert's the best. We love Bert.
Yeah, we do.
So second set, I mean, yeah, they pull out all the stops in the second set. This is like good stuff. So Centerman, amazing. Engborg, amazing. Everything Must Go, really great. And then Ship of Fools, which is, you know, I've talked about it a ton of times on the show. This is the one song that hooked me on Rick. This is the one that sold me on Rick. This like there is no better Grateful Dead cover that Goose has in their catalog than Ship of Fools. It is amazing what they do. It's amazing how well Rick does Jerry. There's nobody that does Jerry better on this particular song. Find me a guy or a woman singing Ship of
You can't.
Fools better than Rick can do it other than Jerry. Find me somebody, anybody, any one person. Just send it to me, please.
Just
Jive.
one more personal note on Ship of Fools. So I can't hear Ship of Fools, see it without thinking. My first Grateful Dead T-shirt was it's the Ship of Fools tie dye,
yeah.
long sleeve,
Yeah, another
kind
one.
of
Yeah,
purple
yeah.
tone,
Yep.
So I bought that
No, it's like
shirt on lot outside of the LA Sports Arena the night of my first Grateful Dead show when Branford sat in for the whole show. And
Ooh.
and then that shirt
That's great for a show.
or the remnants of it are somewhere in Belgium because my entire pack, I was on Fish Tour in 97 on the winter tour, and my entire pack got stolen while I slept in the Brussels train station. And that shirt was in that pack.
Well,
man,
rip
whoever
to that
stole that
shirt.
pack was like so bummed. It was like
Yeah.
whatever the like 1997 equivalent of a Cliff Bar was. There's like 6 of them in there, and like nothing. It's just like really smelly.
And that shirt.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they
shit.
got
That's it.
they got my shirt, my camera, and a couple packs of American Spirits. My my passport and my keys and like all my important shit was on like an over the shoulder because I was a professional even at like 21, traveling the world.
Yeah. Jive
Yeah,
Goose has
so I
always
had
been a
all
professional, guys.
So your hacky sacks were in your pockets, or
Yeah, well, he didn't lose that. All right. B, why don't you take us into the last show of the tour here? Mempho Fest.
Mempho Fest in Memphis in the Botanical Gardens. So yeah, just one big set here. So big modern opener. I'm gonna come back to this
Big
one.
opener.
Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, Lead Up, Animal, I Would Die for You, Thatch, Silver Rising, Hunger Site. So I'll run through this just real quick with some thoughts because there's not a lot of jams or anything to talk about. Big Modern, easiest 8-pointer of all time.
All right, okay. We covered this on the last pod when this show was happening, so like you don't need to go over it again.
It's official. We didn't, there were unconfirmed reports of what was happening before.
There was nothing unconfirmed. It was confirmed.
Now everything is confirmed and official.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. We got the Big Modern as expected in Memphis, truck country. And then I think, obviously the other notable thing here is the Corey Wong sit-in. And so yeah, the other big call out here is the Corey Wong sit-in for Animal. And it's good. I think I like this sit-in better than the first Corey Wong sit-in, which was Hot Tea.
100%.
So yeah, so fun stuff there. Yeah, nice cover choice. Thatch, Silver Rising, snuck in a really quick Hunger Site to close it out, and yeah, you got yourself a nice little festival set that I'm sure lots of folks who were seeing Goose for the first time probably enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, if your first live Goose song is Big Modern, you got to be excited. I will say on the Corey Wong side of things, I think the Rick and Peter sit-in with Corey Wong earlier in the evening is better than the Corey Wong sitting in with Goose. You know, like I understand picking Animal. It's like you can tell them like, okay, it's kind of, it's groovy, it's in G minor, and that's basically it. And Corey can just kind of go ham, especially on the jam. Like you just kind of tell him like, the changes, and he's like, great, I can solo over that. But I really, really like, we talked about this on the day after show, of course, but Rick and Peter sat in on the song Gumshoe during Corey's set. And to me, Rick and Corey going back and forth during that song was really, really cool. The band kind of broke it down to this quieter thing. And, I said it on the day after show, but for people who didn't hear, like, I think it was funny during that song. We know that Peter is a big Wolfpack guy, has been a fan of, Corey in the past. So it was funny that it seemed as though like he was more familiar with the song while maybe not having played it before. He at least knew where the song was going more than Rick. But it was funny, as Corey brought them out on stage, he was kind of like, called up, I texted these guys about an hour ago. We're like, like, here's how the song goes. Like, here are a couple of the changes. It's chill. We'll just hang out, whatever. Like, and so it's funny watching Rick kind of like, and Corey, facing him while playing the song and just kind of like teaching Rick the song as they're playing, and Rick kind of figuring it out. And it doesn't feel like they're in front of a few thousand people, or I don't know what the attendance was at Mempho, but
According to Coach, it was 75,000 people.
okay, well,
Yeah.
Thank you, Neal.
Yep.
But it was really cool watching the two of them, interact like that, not just musically, but Corey kind of teaching Rick the song in real time. But yeah, other than that, I think this Thatch is really good. I think I take this over the Frost Thatch. But this one is a lot of very confident Rick. And I said to Neal, I think, I don't remember if I said this on the day after show or just offline, but I think Rick playing with another guitarist always leaves him with a lot of new musical ideas that he then brings to the rest of that show. So I think that happens in this Thatch here. But yeah, these are my thoughts on Mempho Fest.
Now that you're saying that, this might have been the Thatch I was thinking about when I was talking about Sting.
Yeah.
maybe that one is unremarkable, and this is the one that is this a good, like, nice, blissful?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, I must have been thinking of this
one.
So
it's okay. Happens to the best of us.
Can we start
It's
over at Stanford?
No.
Okay.
No. Mempho Fest also not in California. Just for the record.
Memphis, California, right near Chattanooga, Arkansas.
Yeah, it's all the same. Well, I mean, Memphis. Who the fuck knows where Memphis is? Yeah. I mean, it's on the border of.
Hey, Neal, you said this is the best festival set that Goose has ever played in the city of Memphis.
That's definitely a fact. I mean, we're measured against
Beale Street.
What the hell was it? Beale Street in 2022. I mean, very low bar.
According to Jeff, the worst catering that the band has ever seen.
Interesting.
At Beale Street.
How do you fuck up catering in Memphis?
It was like he said it was like white bread sandwiches. Like,
he's from Florida. He loves that shit. Well, whatever. I mean,
all right. Well, Neal, you got anything to add
about Mempho Fest?
Well, no. It's time for the sack. We're gonna open up the sack. We've got a pretty shallow sack for tonight's episode. But we did have one submission coming in during this episode after I tweeted about the Greek field. Do go back to Rockdale at Back Easy Jim says, when I first encountered Goose Twitter, I thought Jive Goose was the man. 2021 Jive would never have called something the Greek field. Sad. And I mean, I think he's right. I think you've been too far.
Wait, how does he know that's what I called it?
The community. Because I tweeted it.
Oh, you're live tweeting?
Tweet.
No, just that.
It's no good.
We've got another sack from friend of the pod, not Neal Francis, who says, Fuck that guy from
Yeah,
Hose with
that was
Goose.
my response.
Seems like a nice
fuck
guy.
that guy.
Jive,
Yeah.
do you have a response to these
Wait,
two
who
accusations?
is Neal referring to?
Himself.
No, I'm referring to whoever coined the term the Greek theme.
Oh, it definitely
Fuck
wasn't
that
me.
guy.
I was just asking if anyone else had.
I don't know who coined the term. Yeah, true.
Well, nobody had, so
You
therefore
guys know I'm on
coined it.
record with how I feel about these naming conventions.
Yeah, it's mainly Vickers' fault,
Oh.
really. If we want to circle back
Yeah.
to
Oh, we
something.
can always
absolutely.
blame Vickers.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, we joke about this a lot, too much. In fact, it's to the point where it's kind of exhausted. But this really is Vickers' fault. This stupid naming shit he's the
Okay.
one. But
I have.
Yeah.
I actually I just wanted to do two real quick, but I can start with one. I think the first one's going to be quick. It's from friend of the pod and fantasy goose warrior Zach Straw.
Ooh.
His question is,
wow.
does anyone else think they should bring back Not Alone or Just Me? And I think no, it's not just you. It's not just
You're
you.
not alone.
I think it's, in fact,
You're
I
not
think it's
alone.
everyone. I think everyone would say true. They should bring back Not Alone.
Jive Goose approved opinion.
100% true.
Bring back Not Alone. Please.
Okay. So I guess I have to do the thing that I teased doing in the last episode, but I forgot to bring up at the end of last episode. Or maybe I did. And
Are you going to
correct
put
me.
on the conspiracy cap?
No, I have no conspiracy theories at this point.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
Wait, is there something that I should?
There is a conspiracy meal.
Oh,
segment,
yeah,
but...
drop it now. Now's the
Okay,
time.
well,
Let's do it.
I mean, the conspiracy meal. I think we got a highlight here. If you can put on your conspiracy tinfoil hat for a second here, Neal. Peter has been seen in both New York Yankees and New York Mets gear, and has, tweeted recently numerous times that he wants to see a Subway series. What's up with this? Is this allowed? Is this a thing? Can people support two baseball teams from the same city? I don't know anything about sports, so this is like a genuine question.
No, you're not allowed to support two teams from the same city. However, over the course of a regular baseball season, it has been my opinion that you can be a fan of an NL team and an AL team. When it comes time for the playoffs, like, that's just cheating.
Aren't we in the
So-
playoffs?
You will need, like, when they face each other. That's my point. Like, so, like, the AL and the NL can only face each other in the World Series. I mean, this is sports shit, Ryan. This is very complicated. We don't have time on this podcast to explain the nuances of baseball to you. However, not right now, but eventually they may face each other. So, big deal. So, until that moment, you can have an NL team and an AL team. Jive,
Well,
agree, disagree here?
I don't know if it's that simple. I don't know that there's many hardcore New York Yankees fans who have Mets gear in their closet.
Oh, yeah, fair. I guess my point is, like, let's say, I mean, I live in Boston, and there are folks who live in the city of Boston who may also be Mets fans, or they may also be Cardinals fans, or whatever. And they embrace the team from another city, even though they're here living in Boston, and they claim Boston as their.
Yeah, it's a different city.
Does that make sense?
That's not the same city, so that's the difference.
Yeah, same city thing is a little weird, but I mean, Peter's a musician; he's an artist.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I think so. Nobody can see my hands, but if you put sports fans, like relative against each other, like Ryan would be way down here, right? And like somebody like
Yeah.
Andy would be way up here. I'm wondering if Peter might be closer to Ryan when it comes to actual. Sometimes I wonder if Peter's sports alliances aren't born a little bit more from, it's like, the crowd will love this if I wear this sports tee. You know what I mean? Versus like, oh man, I've loved this team since I was 7 or 5.
I'm ready for Peter to come out of Nashville in an MLB hat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's from Connecticut also, which, being from Connecticut means you love Max Creek, first of all. Second of all,
I'm
it's
sure.
very confusing. Like you like the New York teams, you like the Boston teams. So like, I mean, it's all
We should we just need to, next time we have Peter on, I think what we do is we don't give him any heads up at all, and we just quiz him. We come up with like varying levels
on
of
Moo Boot Lover.
sports knowledge type question.
Neal
And then
Sack.
we see how he does, and then we decide. Make him prove it. You know what I mean?
Well, like let's make him prove that he's from Connecticut. That's where I'm coming from. Like,
All right.
have
Well,
you seen Moon Boot
do we have
Lovers
any?
fit in
Do we
with
have
Max
any
Creek?
more?
Like, have you seen it?
I have another one.
I have.
Yeah, but this is a serious one. This is a serious one that I want you guys to think about.
Okay. All right.
It's from JV Gregor, and his question is, what is a jam from September that flies under the radar, i.e. doesn't generate the conversation it should or gets overlooked? So no, hold on. You guys take a minute.
Because
You guys take a minute, and because I've already thought about this
I have my
question.
answer. I mean, and Neal's
So-
wrong. Yeah. No, I mean, I thought about it when I saw that earlier. It's the Zoltaire, the Utah Zolt. I feel like I'm the only one that's been really excited about this jam. And I think it's really, really good. As we discussed earlier, I got both of you who didn't have it on your playlist.
See, now I already
put it on
regret
your
giving you
playlist
credit
after
for
listening.
that.
Yeah, it's just like straight patting himself on the back. Like,
What? When I'm right, I'm right. It happens sometimes.
Okay.
oh man.
I mean, it's tough because we know what the good jams are, and I think largely, like, there's a lot of agreement. But one I'll throw out is Boston Thatch. I think Boston Thatch is probably better than a lot of folks might give it credit for. I think coming out of that run, everybody was hard on no jams and blah blah. And so maybe that Boston Thatch gets overlooked a little bit there. I don't know. I'm not part of the online discourse, so I don't know what the public opinion is. I'm just going by kind of what we've talked about more than anything. And I think that Boston Thatch might be a little underrated or overlooked. It's probably rated right where it should be rated.
Can I
Yes.
Can I offer a confession?
Yes.
All right. So when we were talking about Boston Thatch earlier, I thought we were talking about like the Boston Thatch that was actually good, which is like the one from last year.
Neal.
So everything I said about Boston Thatch on this episode, wrong. Like, I mean, I don't like the Boston Thatch at all, but
That's harsh.
I mean,
Yes.
your kind
That's
of
like
thing.
reverse.
Yeah,
It's
I still
reverse.
like it.
Very good Thatch.
Yeah, it's reverse
Like the
attendance
best one
bias.
this year.
Yeah, well, I have that. You know that. That's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It all depends on how good
Yeah,
the parking spot
yeah.
is for that particular night.
yeah, Neal sometimes is hard on the shows that he's at, and then sometimes he's hard on the shows that he's not at, but some of us are at. But then if it's a show that none
Yeah,
of us
yeah.
are at,
It's true.
he loves it.
Well, he's
Yeah.
also still hard on it for other reasons. Neal's just hard on every show. So, you can't really take Neal seriously.
I just fucking hate this band, man.
Well,
I'm done.
And we all do. That's the moral of the story of this episode. We all hate Goose, and that's why we're here today. And we've been talking
Yeah.
for a couple hours.
3
2.5
hours.
hours.
Something
Well,
like that.
we're 3 hours since we hit record, but I think we're a lot less than that in terms of actual runtime of the pod. Well, before we wrap up, I think we'd be remiss if we did not talk a little bit about the Viva El Gonzo lineup that dropped last week. We talked a little bit about this on the day after shows last week, but I'm curious. B, I'm curious. We haven't heard from you on this yet, but not just your thoughts on the overall lineup, but just like, what do you think is going to happen at this festival?
what do I what I what do I think is going to happen at the festival? I think there'll be a lot of live music, and like, yeah, probably
That's
fun,
true.
colorful things for the people to walk amongst and you know look at. So I'm a big War on Drugs fan. I think the lineup overall is interesting. I don't know that if that lineup was a first set, I'd probably be critiquing the flow a little bit. Maybe I don't know. Um, I think there's some people that you'd expect. I think if you're saying, oh yeah, Goose is curating, a festival. I think there's a lot of familiar faces on there that we would expect, right? I think War on Drugs
Yep.
is not one that I would expect. I had no idea. I have no idea what that connection is, or if there is a connection, or how this came about. That would be an interesting thing to find out, though. How did that come about? Um, but yeah, I'm a big fan of War on Drugs, so I'd be happy to see them. I don't think everybody. I think in festival settings like this, because I have seen a little bit of chatter of like, oh, War on Drugs, they don't really jam, their sets are the same and blah blah blah. I think in a setting like this, that matters far less. It's not like they're not going on tour together. You know what I mean? Um, so so I think it's cool to see bands, regardless of whether or not this is the show they play all the time or not. If you're not seeing them really, then who cares, right? So anyway, long story longer, I'd be psyched to see War on Drugs in this setting. Um, yeah, I would have loved to have seen another His Golden Messenger appearance. Would have liked to have
Of
seen that
course.
over like,
No repeats from Fred.
yeah, I wouldn't
No
care about
repeats
that
from Fred.
repeat though. I mean, I'd be
Well,
I'd be way down for that, big time.
yeah, no, I'm excited about Viva El Gonzo. Really just seeing Goose in this kind of setting. I'm excited that they're curating their own experience here. Very different than Fred, of course. Like it's a festival, but it's a very different kind of festival. I think this is kind of also I feel like this is more unique than the big destination events that we've seen so far. I know that like Panic does it and Warren Haynes does it and Dark Star Orchestra does it, but I feel like there's not one on the same scale as what Goose is doing here, especially with offering all of these different packages that they have and the fact that you can get an a la carte festival ticket. It's not just tied to all inclusive packages at the same resort like Fish or Dave Matthews or those ones. Um, so I'm really curious to see how the schedule plays out because they've said that every band is getting 2 sets. Goose is playing 2 sets per night for all 3 nights. So and they're going to be surprise pop-up sets, of which I hope and pray that one of them is Arabelo. I would expect that there's a pop-up Arabelo set happening somewhere. But I'm just really intrigued. Obviously we're just short of 7 months away from this at this point, but I'm just really intrigued to see how they're going to structure this and how it's going to play out, and just generally excited about it. Neal?
Yeah, I mean, I've said a lot about this already. What I'm looking forward to is potential collaborations. I think there are a lot of incredibly talented musicians that are going to be there. I think, yeah, I mean, you have like 2 Connecticut bands, and you've been waiting for these collabs for like a really long time.
Just
I think
say
you have,
Aggie.
yeah, you have Eggy and Goose in the same place. It's just weird. Like you have to acknowledge the awkwardness of the fact that like these 2 bands exist and people are really excited about these bands. They used to play together all the time. Now they don't. And then here they are playing together again. And they're all incredible musicians. So I hope there's some kind of collaboration there. And then also like you're gonna see a little bit of Mahali with Goose because Goose and Mahali they love playing together. And
Maybe they'll
you
play
might not
Doobie.
like the Mahali, but you think back to that Lincoln Hall Doobie 2019. Holy shit, man! It's all time Goose right there. And you two are gonna disagree with me, and I don't care.
Yeah,
All
I do
timer,
disagree.
all timer
That's
version.
okay. That's okay.
But no, so like all seriousness though, like really excited about this. it's gonna be great, and they're gonna make this special. They're not just gonna go out there and like play 6 sets and just walk away. They're gonna do something that's gonna be really great. And like Jive said, War on Drugs, awesome, like really exciting stuff. They're from around here, right from where I'm sitting right now. Uh, Lead singer from War on Drugs went to
Yeah,
high
kid.
school a mile away from where I'm sitting right now. I could walk
Yeah,
to
kid. Yeah,
less than a
kid.
walk
Yeah,
to where he went to
kid.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kid.
kid. But he's a
All right.
Massachusetts guy, big time Massachusetts guy. So
All right.
good
All right.
stuff.
All right.
Really exciting.
Awesome. Well, that about covers it. And that brings us to the conclusion of this episode of Always Almost There, part 2 of our September
No,
recap.
sorry.
We're not
I
done.
heard you can't see your friends during the day at the festival. Is there any truth to that? Okay. You can't text them or something?
No.
I don't know.
No, they're jamming all cell service during the day, unless you're at the same hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, you were like taken control of by like a Mexican cartel, and they're like
I
putting
was
you
misinformed.
So yeah, go friends.
Yeah,
No
there we
friends.
go. Yeah, oh no, you can talk to your friends. All right. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this episode of Always Almost There. Thanks everybody for listening. We will be back in 6 weeks, just over a month, until Goose plays their next leg of tour. We've got that starting very, very soon. They're coming Nashville. We've got a couple of Hurricane Helene benefits. Then we hit Florida, and then up to Pittsburgh, Cincy, DC. Really, really excited to get back on the road, see some more Goose. I'm hoping that we can kind of get the best of both worlds here. Raise that ceiling a little bit. Let's keep that floor nice and high, and let's get that ceiling elevated. Am I right, Neal?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Always Almost There. It has been a pleasure, as always, talking about Goose to all 5 of you that made it to the end of this episode, and we appreciate all of you. Well, I hope so.
Your mom, Andy, Rob.
Do you think any of them are listening?
Andy's
to 3
definitely
hours of
not.
podcast?
No, Andy's definitely not. He does other things.
Yeah, Andy's definitely not. Yeah.
My mom is not. My mom will listen to like 10 minutes and be like, wow, you sound really good. And that's it. Anyway, thanks everybody. Sincerely. We will see you next time. Of course, join us the day after every single show on this upcoming leg of tour. Neal and I will be there. Jive probably won't. But it's going to be a lot of fun. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We've got availability. If you are going to a show and you would like to be a guest, we've got availability at most of the shows right now. So please reach out on social media at AAT Goose Pod if you would like to be a guest, because we'd love to have you and chat about the shows, because they're going to be awesome. So we'll see you out there. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day, your week, whatever you may be doing right now. And we will see you on October 25th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern to recap Nashville. Thanks, everybody.